right, now that we've got that out.
Now, particularly visual.
So if somebody wants to Zoom now, how do we do that? Will you see on that?
Yeah, they'll
You're
just,
the host?
this is the Zoom meeting, so they'll just join if they want to,
Oh, so their tile will pop up on that?
but nobody's here.
Okay.
Cause this is
That's
people who
because
would
I'm
normally,
here.
yeah,
Right.
nobody's would normally do it.
All right, I forget what's on the agenda. Well, this probably-
Right
We'll
here.
give you a packet.
Maybe a little
We have a
packet.
real one. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, we want to approve the minutes first.
Yes. Did you guys do your homework and read the town meeting?
Oh,
You did?
Yeah.
Good job.
I found a few faults.
Okay,
You want to go with that first?
sure. We can also move it to the end if we want to let everybody else go so they can even
Yeah, well, let's just-
agonize themselves.
We can do that. That's okay.
Rodney says yes.
Probably second, yeah.
Okay, so we will move that.
What are we moving?
We're moving the, approving the minutes to after
Okay,
other business.
okay.
Yeah.
He's fading fast.
Do we need to have somebody like
Make that
motion?
motion.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, Mr. Road Foreman, what's up?
Well, I had visited with you folks sitting at the table for a while.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd write a couple of notes so I wouldn't forget what I wanted to tell you about. Stratford Road there, the culvert situation, where it's trying to fall in there. You have some bids that I'm gonna need a yay or a nay on somebody tonight, so we can move forward on getting a date on getting it fixed. But I also want you to know, this does not cover some of the stone and stuff like that, put the culvert in. We bought the culvert, and so this is just for the digging, backing it back in, placing the stone.
What's there now, Rob? Is it one of those ancient ones or? just a-
Yeah, it's a pretty old culvert. 2.5 footer, and we're moving it to a 3 footer. And it's failing, one end of it's fell off. So it's washing the dirt away underneath, and which is causing it to make the road sag there. So we do need to get that approved, so
And you're
We can
gonna
do a
haul
date.
the stone.
all but the big stuff. Big stuff, we're gonna put it on flatbed. We got a whole bunch of granite over to the garage. It came from the Chelsea Bridge work when they did that.
Yeah,
And so we're gonna recycle that right into that bank right down there. Yeah. And, but it doesn't cover paving, and I can't tell you what paving's gonna cost because I don't know how big an area we're gonna be digging out to fix this situation.
Well, that's on top of that, so no matter who does it, it's gonna be the
Right.
same amount.
more and more and more.
We're gonna be more, blacktop is coming in to fix a little bit of their mess last winter, last fall. And,
Might be able
they're
to
gonna
get them to
fix that. If I can get the culvert done fast enough, they're gonna fix that when they're ready.
So what's, I mean, there's a dollar difference between Loftus and Smith. I mean, what's your opinion?
I think they're both quite capable of doing the job. Matt's idea I like, and that is he's gonna have a excavator on both sides of the road.
Mhm.
And John would have just one big excavator with a little excavator sitting over the pit level in the garage. But John's idea, Matt's idea would be to take the, so one could dig on one side, one could dig on another side. I guess he plans on hiring his uncle to come and work with him that day.
Said 3 laborers.
And Joe.
No, he doesn't. So if Matt does the job, John was gonna load the blocks in the pit with a small excavator, what's Matt gonna do, or is the town gonna load?
I think the town will, probably if Matt does it, the town will probably load blocks on the Matt's flatbed with the town loader. And which I don't really believe it'd be that much work for our to do that.
Right.
But I haven't proved it, so they both, they're sort of far apart, and they ain't really in one sense. But, it's totally up to you folks to decide which way you wanna go with that.
Is either one of them gonna jump, are both of them gonna jump right on it, or is one gonna be sooner than the other?
I
or-
think they both got a month out. John told me that, because I asked John, what he thought, and, he said, it'd be at least a month before I move back from Braintree. So, and, I don't really, Matt could fool me and, be on it 2 weeks, I don't know. But, we wanna use this sign that's out here in front of this building to go by, Gordy's to, start warning them what we're doing. I need to get the okay, and I need to get a date from somebody, so I know what I'm putting on that screen.
So you'll be in contact with Brenda then?
I already been in contact with them.
Like we got Drew Road, right?
And the plan is, as far as we're hoping, is we would have the thing, wouldn't be finished, but we'd have the road back open by dark. And, so traffic could go up and down the Stratford Road, but the, Drew Road would have to be open during the day, let, traffic out of there.
Right.
But, we wanna get the word out that there be no trucks.
Right.
And so I've ordered some detour signs and some, I don't know if it's even, I don't know how legal that part of it is, but I ordered 15-mile-an-hour speed signs to put up on that there road while they were.
Good idea.
Coming from Stratford, how do you do it? You're
Okay,
alone,
yeah.
truck coming from Stratford, where are you gonna hit it?
While they'd be turning right there on Hoyts and going down Brenda Fields Road.
The way you said no trucks that day. Do we stop them at
They can turn
Stratford
around there.
Common?
I
Old City,
really,
I don't.
I guess probably gonna have to, but, that's a good question. It's, I hadn't really thought about the Stratford end of it, but most trucks go up to Stratford and come back down it. Cause they come in from the quarry to get there. And, but I guess, we're gonna have to put something up for a sign on top, and we know a date, saying that, this day there'll be no big trucks. Won't be a flashing, nice looking sign like that one, but, we'll do something.
Maybe you could borrow the sheriff's sign.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of stuff.
I make a motion to go with
Any further discussion? Aye, you gotta say it, it's been so long now. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
I've said it once, but I'll say it one more time, so there's no surprise. Putting the blacktop back down, is another cost all of its own. Truck two. I think it's been laid up for a couple of months, off and on, mostly laid up.
Salaries.
Yeah, because, either can't get parts for it or, something's happening. And, so anyways, we took the truck, old grand off, it was a nice rainy day, thought we might as well pull a little stuff from there. And truck shimmies and carries on, and, had a terrible time, we put new tires on the front end of it, we took the tires, feet down there, down balance. Still has an issue. Well, turns out that at least one thing on it, is it, the brand new bushings they put into it 3 weeks ago. One of them slid right out of its socket. So, but a large snap ring apparently wasn't placed right or something. Came back cracking, it's allowing the back wheels to go like that. So that's where,
McLeod did that?
Must be fun to drive.
yeah, well, Larry says it's a blast. So anyways, it's back to McLeod's as we speak. They told me they could promise when they could work on it, but if they got it up there, they get it in as quick as possible. And I said, well, I'll be headed this afternoon.
Have we paid them yet?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Do they accept responsibility for?
Been my experience, nobody in that field has any intention to own up to anything they do wrong. And so I would say from conversation, he was trying to get somebody to say they've done something wrong to the truck, but he didn't come right out and tell me that one of my guys did something wrong with the truck. But I would say the real culprit is that giant snap ring did not seat. And it came back out.
We'll see how it works out.
And
So it's back down there now.
up there, down, up.
Where's the button?
And then we got that hard scramble grant we're working on. That'll be for next year. We have a bid in here for that, but that's only to go off with the paperwork, nothing we're worried about tonight. And the Russell Road, we're gonna try to get that wrapped up in August. That grant there. And
Was George Elder doing that one? Or was
Matt's doing one down there.
George?
But I want everybody to go along with George on the hard scrabble one, because, well, it has the whole lower side and we just the right thing. And we're gonna actually, because the landowner gave permission, we're gonna actually add a culvert in the middle of that hill. That will relieve pressure tremendously. Getting the culvert shut some water out of there. And I don't know when the guardrails will be done on Dickerman, but they've given me 2 or 3 dates and they ain't filled one of them yet. So I don't know.
You keep calling them?
I keep going.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what's gonna be for cost there either. We had some kind of agreement on what it would cost, but it's a little bit longer than what that agreement was. So it might be a couple more dollars than we expect.
What was it, 3,600 or something?
Yeah. And the crack sealers was the same case. They said they'd put in a day here and a day there, and they finally been here for 2 days now, but it took them a month to get those 2 days. And they still owe us 1 more day. And I think in all reality, it's going to pretty much fix every crack anyhow.
Good. I have a complaint.
Let's hear it.
We were coming down the day they were doing it, they had just one fire, over here, Eli's truck. For half a mile at Tuttle's, we had about an inch of that stuff on our tire. And it will not come off now.
Well,
I'm gonna have to have dentures or something. It's going down the road. What happens, like, does this happen to a lot of people? Or do they just send us right through it's like gum in your shoe, it's just like.
I think because I saw that for I didn't see where it was much of anything to worry about. But when I pulled in to talk to him over here on Spring Road, it did kind of stick to my tires. And I laid it to the fact that it was was fresh, hot, and had cool ready.
Usually it sets up pretty fast.
Well, by the time I was done talking and drove off, it didn't catch the tires at all. And so,
Must have just been what they done.
and so my guess is that you came right onto it just as it was. But I did see a select board member one day pull right in that Moody Road right there. Paver was just coming down and he pulled right in on top of that park, visit with them. That's some nice tricks. So, the crack ceiling, like I said, one more day and we should have that out of the way, but, they've
Are they
been,
doing that? They're just Stratford Road, or they're doing a little bits on the other fronts too?
they've done everything that needed to be done. The only thing that we didn't do this time around, and if it falls that we have a little bit of time, I'll send them down there to do it, or to get the full day. But we didn't do Hal Lane down here because of the fact, it doesn't receive heavy traffic, so I wanted to see the roads that received heavy traffic before I saw them going down there to do that. So that may not be done up, but everything that receives the heavy traffic will be. And then there's a bridge. Yeah, there's a tree laying on a bridge down in here, Hal Bridge. And we need to get that removed, and I want to be able to tell this fellow that he's the man for the job. It's a old maple tree about yay big. That piece of it broke off and it's laying over on top of the bridge. And it needs to be taken down out there. I do that at least every meeting.
I just wanna tip it back, this is sitting, like, no fall off.
My hands off.
What are you drinking, Brian?
It's just my theory ginger. What did I do?
Get calling an expert.
Bushing, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to accept this. To remove the trees,
There's some dead elms there too.
3 dead elms,
Well,
remainder of maple.
they should probably take them down while they're there. It wasn't my main concern.
All right, I second that.
My main concern is the heavy barrel that's laying over the bridge.
All in favor, say aye. That truck body, maybe it's supposed to be shipped on the 19th of this month. The ton truck. The ton truck. I was thinking today, I guess I probably should have brought that ton truck home 3 months ago and put that little body on it. It's out there in the, it's sitting on that little dump trailer out there to get its body until the body showed up. Still can, I suppose.
May have to, because I'm telling you, the old dog is starting to get tired. And so I just thought I'd let you know. And of course, the ditching and some grading.
Spring Road looks nice.
Well, I don't know how, hopefully the mud is not growing much. But, so far, I'm the only person that has any debate with it, but I'm leaning towards the fact that the places that we put extra chloride to keep people happy are the places that mud up the worst.
Really?
And I
What's
think,
that?
I think it's because it holds the water right in there, because out on the edge where the chloride ain't, doesn't seem to be. You can drive over there, but you can't drive in the middle of the road. And of course, most studies do show that or it does have a tendency to slime the top up. And so, but on that same token, don't know what you're gonna do about it, you ain't gonna get anybody to understand, to live with the idea there is dust out there. But I just wanted to know, I'm thinking it's, that would be one of our issues.
Is chloride expensive right now or hard to get?
Well, right now, it's pretty easy to get, and it's staying the same price.
Because Randolph hasn't been grading because they can't get any chloride.
Well, I understand they ain't great, because there ain't no budget
That's right. Can't afford chloride.
Or that rack road or some sort.
for it. It is tonight. Tomorrow morning, we're coming through there with grader, and we'll push it all into the heat. Get rid of that.
That's the end of the rec road.
Oh, Chelsea Mountain
Right there in front of France, we're gonna put something else in, not gonna put anything on top of that. So we're gonna scoop it out of there, call it done.
So you're just gonna cover it up with the Tuckers quarry stuff?
Yeah, I'm gonna take that mud that's that deep, right out of the center of the road. I told Thomas, don't scrape anything that's hard. Just take that soup.
Yep.
Put it in the pile, and a windrow, and we'll move it, load everything. We'll start over and see if that makes any sense at all. Good spot to start.
Sure. You can always use that other stuff on a class 4 road, so.
Yeah.
Work good there.
And I guess when the pavement is finally done, it'll be, because you will see a bill from Chelsea, and I couldn't see bringing it in from Randolph, but there'll be a bill for inch and a quarter material from Chelsea to do shoulders on Stratford Road.
Oh,
Open the Allen Mill quarry, if you, close.
And you'll know that's where all that stuff is going, it's going on.
how do you put that down, grader?
We feed it out of the side of the truck.
Oh, that's right.
And then the grader lays it
Yep.
out.
Yep.
And what worked last time very nice. The broom, pretty old machine, long ways up the road. The blower on the back of that tractor seems pretty nice. So we're making use of that. And mulch hay, I'm gonna need a bunch of that. Has anybody here got any? Because if not, I know where some is, but it's $3 a bale, and I think I'm about buying it, so I don't disappear on it.
$3 a bale isn't a bad deal nowadays.
So, I was telling them I'd take those 100 bales if they, you know where the old Donahue place is? You probably don't recognize it as Donahue, but, up top of Fry Road.
Yep.
And then you got that big fancy place out there, that Carter's, used to be Carter's, I guess. Well, anyway, they have a tractor trailer sitting there with 100 bales left in it. And so, they take $3 a bale for it, and I think we should go lose it.
Grab
Now, that wraps up what I got today.
Anybody got any questions?
When's Craig gonna do the
They've been scheduled 3-4 times now. Maybe Thursday. Because it was actually Monday. And, but it was Thursday last week.
Will it take them more than a day to pay?
I think it probably will be 2 days.
Yep.
I mean, this whole problem we're having is not totally weather. And this will answer your question about one flagger. They're having a nightmare trying to find flaggers.
Yeah. Or any kind of help like that.
Yeah.
Because, Duncan told me, I think it was the Lebanon crew was all brand new guys. And, you know, nobody left over. So they're just kind of learning.
Yeah, it's not nice when you're
Right.
on end of it. Then learning, you take that. But that's kind of what happened to us with Blacktop last year.
Yeah.
on the job, and, he, just didn't get it set up right.
Are you gonna reach out to Matt and Isaac, or do you want?
And I guess if you can, definitely reach out to Isaac.
Maybe I'll
I'm
get hold of
welcome
Matt.
when you can do Matt.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'm gonna run into Matt for miles over, but we can do it. Thank you.
That's right. Isaac, had no competition, but he still won. So it's really a lot of fun.
Well, I got to tell you what I found very impressive about that dog. And that was, he took his equipment down at the bottom of Tunbridge Mountain and cleaned up the entire maple tree down there. And nobody asked him to do anything about it. He went down there, I sure he went down there to let me know that he was capable of handling that kind of work. But he took care of it. And I haven't forgotten that, he did that, and so he was first on my list thinking about somebody. That's why that,
Can we get his new truck?
You can too.
When did you order it?
3 years ago.
It's an old,
maybe the body's showing up really late. But you folks are really lucky you decided to buy the truck that you bought, because everybody under the sun is having trouble getting a truck of any sort.
All right, you're free to go.
All right,
Thank you.
all right.
Well, up next is Teresa, and if you look at the first, page of your packet is your information on
Under the assessment.
Yeah, big fancy cover page, the real information's on this. Was a virtual energy audit with Efficiency Vermont. It was a free service that we did in February. Todd Tyson and I went through the building. I held up an iPhone and Paul Garnier was on the other end. And he caught things I couldn't believe he could see because it was kind of dark. And he was pretty sharp on what he saw. And we really just wanted to get a sense of what we were up against in terms of trying to button up the library as best we can. The furnace, I've talked to people who have served on the board over the past 10 years, and they all said the furnace was always a subject. And we don't want to take any chances going into this winter. If they don't even put the cover back on, there's no date sticker because it just is a constant maintenance issue. So we thought it'd be a good idea to get an idea of what other issues we might be able to tie in to increase the energy efficiency. I looked at our budget before I came over, and I was a little surprised that we actually are within budget on our propane and our Green Mountain Power. But not knowing where those prices will go, we don't really increase our expense line there much, you know, a couple hundred every year. So you don't know if you're gonna have a hard winter. It's hard to tell for last winter because really the library is closed for the most part. So at this point, I'm coming to you, representing the board, because we have our one. Replacing the furnace. I guess my questions would be, do I need to acquire bids?
is it propane or oil?
Propane. The tank is from Dead River. It is buried out back. It's a 500 gallons capacity. I had an opportunity, another community member presented me with a, it's like a co-op with Rhymes, and the price point on the propane is like $1 less a gallon. So I called Dead River and we got into a conversation about replacing the tank because if we switch companies and it's buried and it's out there, it's been there for about 14 years, I guess. And then you get into working up a deal of if you would basically buy the tank. And now we're ready to do this outdoor space, and I'm not going to rip up the backyard. No, so It might work out because when I called Dead River, they don't want to lose their business and they said they could negotiate a price. So I'm meeting with a fellow from Dead River tomorrow to get an estimate on the furnace. And I've already sent a notice out to Brocklebank and Monahan to get him. And the only one I haven't contacted yet is David Royce. DR Heat, I don't have a phone number. I have his latest work bill. Because he's the one who's been patching it together, and I guess Ben's been out too. I wasn't aware of that. So I just need the select board to know that we're doing this and what guidelines I have to work within. You know, do we have to get bids? Do you need to know what we're doing?
What kind of money you talking? It's like,
I mean, I honestly have no idea. You just
I
have.
just got a new furnace. I'm telling you, it's really fun.
Yeah.
I think it was like around $15,000. That's what, but it's this big. It's like the coolest thing that I own.
It should be for 50,000.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's like all these beautiful copper pipes around it. It's like in a tiny closet. It should be on display, but Ben
What kind of
Linehan did it. You should not ask me any more questions.
What's propane?
Oh, propane. Okay, I was like, I haven't really touched any of the buttons, and
Yeah.
so I didn't have.
So the recommendation was, it said if nearing its end life, you should get a quote for a new high efficiency furnace. There's $100 purchase point rebate for the fan motor. And then he went on to talk about potentially integrating a centrally ducted heat pump, which would be a whole nother adventure. And that could act as a dehumidifier and possibly some air conditioning on the other seasons, because he does talk further down about the spikes in our energy tend to be with an air conditioner that I don't think we're planning on putting in the window.
I have
This
brought it
year.
up.
It's massive. It's like, it's huge. And if you look at the Green Mountain Power, it shoots right up there. The dehumidifiers are needed. We did pull the one that was really old. That one's gone, and the one we have running is a Energy Star. I'm not sure about the one back in front.
Are they just for the basement or the whole building?
The basement, yeah. The old part of the basement, which we just looked at, it's 1840, is all the stone, you know, I mean, it's really pretty intense down there. And that is, I think, where a lot of the moisture is. The newer part of the building is good, but it's all books. It's all paper, and it's a cement floor, I guess, and there's moisture. So anyway, it's a big project. It's going to be over a couple of years, I'm sure. We're trying to recruit some volunteer work. One of the other suggestions was on the old part of the building, the floor had the rope in between, which is pretty much deteriorated. You can stand below and look up. So we don't want to disturb the floor, but we want to see what would be appropriate installation or push up between the floor joists. So that's kind of something I'm hoping we can get some volunteer work for. And the other thing suggested is when you enter, like if you come in for winter evening to the main door, front door, to close off the stairwell. Still have access to the attic, but basically seal it off. And I think I can get local help enough. You know, maybe we'd have to pay for some supplies. But the furnace is at the top of the list, and we are asking for the $8,000 in our budget from the front. And speaking to Becky today, I guess we have $1,000 from the town for a furnace, because I guess it's been on the budget.
yeah, I just saw that.
Yeah. So we're up to
Well, I
9,000.
think better, get bids for it.
Yeah, it
'Cause
is.
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, okay. So Dead River, Brocklebank, and if I get a hold of DRP, would that be three
Yeah,
fairly
maybe.
local?
Maybe Gillespie's, I don't know. They do propane also.
Gillespie, Northfield.
Northfield.
Okay. Because Brocklebank is Tunbridge, Dead River's Woodstock, and then Royce is Washington. So let's be sure I'll get them all.
Did you get estimates on or did Efficiency Vermont should give you a, we can do tier 1, 2, and 3, but they didn't get that far.
No, they gave me some contractors. I've emailed a couple. Only one got back to me so far, and they said they don't. So I know personally, my experience, Neil and I did an Efficiency Vermont, we net zeroed our home. And we worked with Efficiency Vermont, they were great. They didn't charge us anything for all of the engineering information we got. And we pulled from White River Junction.
The contractor.
Yeah, and one came further and they came, I don't know if they were happy about it, but they came. It was partially winters. But I think the furnace isn't going to change whether we're insulated or not. Just needs to be a high efficiency furnace that won't need a monthly phone call to get fixed. In March, it won't freeze. And we'll get the thermostats done too, with the, the programmable. So bids, okay. And then what does fall town or library financially? Because I always knew it was the exterior. Does that include like anything we might do with windows if we were thinking about getting, Portland Glass offers quotes for interior storms, which would be for the older windows. But they would be interior.
Right.
So these are just things down the road. I'm just kind of throwing it out there so you know what we're kind of going into. And if we should be putting it on the budget that we'll work on, which would be fiscal year 23. We can think about it.
Well, generally, interior things are your responsibility.
And exterior
Yeah.
is,
I mean, a window, if it's actual window, then it's private sales site, private food site. So I don't know if you were there.
no plans on replacing any windows. The new part of the construction is in great shape. It's really the older building,
Right.
the furnace, and just buttoning up those two spaces to not be losing this nice new heat we're gonna put in. The historical room and the community room are working off their own new furnace, which he observed as being up to date, and he put numbers on here. What it is.
So you're hoping to have this new furnace before winter.
I mean, if we can pull it off. I'm hoping there's pockets of money in our budget that, that we can pull together. We do have 2,000 in new equipment money. There's some other little spots, so.
And I will say, not that we have seen any of this money yet, but I was at a meeting last week and Jason Broughton was leading in, urged all the librarians in the state to continue to go to Selectboard meetings and say, we want some of the COVID money.
Right.
The
Yeah.
libraries are, I don't know if that's under the umbrella of what you can get. I know with the libraries, so it's still pretty specific about not having it be new construction, but I don't know about the town's allotment and what that can do, but a new furnace is pretty vital to the front building.
Mhm. Yeah. And, we're trying to prevent any further damage too, because, with moisture and we've already had 2 sections repaired from the leaking skylight, which isn't really, it just puts more moisture because the skylight's up here and the damage was like way down at the foundation. So it really makes you wonder what's happening between.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, we can't really get in there. So I'll keep you up on what kind of expenses we start building
Keep in
and.
touch.
So what did you budget for this upcoming, I guess, the fiscal year we're in?
Well,
For
so
furnace replacement?
that budget would have been drawn up by Eve.
Yeah.
And I don't know that she was in the same frame of mind as we are now with the furnace.
Right.
I know when I was on from 16 to 19, it was a conversation that was being held. And Donna Nelson told me when she was on, and I don't know when she was on, she was before me, that it was a conversation that was
Yeah,
being held.
no, we've done that.
And now that we kind of are in a new director situation, we're having a little more freedom, I suppose, to do things that need to be taken care of and be timely. So there isn't really any additional money. She did, the trustees did put in an extra 1,000 for hot water heater, which we have already replaced, and that fell in last year's budget. So I would say there might be an extra 1,000 there. That would have us up to 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not real worried about
Yeah.
that. I guess I'll just,
We don't get worried until you get your estimate.
Right,
It might be
yeah.
high.
you know.
I'm really good at worrying. So I can do it for you. What are my skills?
Yeah,
So if I get worried, I'll just call you.
Tell me, I'll take it on.
come on down. So I guess my questions were anything we should know about moving forward, and it sounds like, just to keep you posted on what we're up to. The only other real question I had, is there any monies that you would know about because it is a historical building? It's in the, I guess, or are there any cautions about what we should or shouldn't be doing? Because they wanted to come in and spray foam the whole, all the
Was,
stone over.
Guy that come over and looked at the town hall,
Can't recall his name.
he's from over Woodstock, way
John or something.
What did you do?
he, if you wanted to do something, he'd come in and look at it. And said whether you could do it or not,
Yeah,
or what you could do, I think.
Yeah.
because
Oh.
I would like to be sure that we're not,
Yeah.
when we went through for the audit, and when you go down the basement steps, and if you go to the left and you step up into the oldest part of the library, I mean, there's this huge stone, that is the threshold. I mean, it's really incredible, and it's got the stone, and he's like, yeah, you could spray foam all that, and I'm thinking, I don't know if we can do that. You can insulate without.
I said we could do quite a lot, but there were things that we could.
Yeah,
Right.
They
Well-
sort of changed it.
Yeah, I'm not sure the library falls under the same sort of guidelines that the town hall does.
No, it's a
Yeah, but
public
it's
building.
historical.
Right.
that main part,
By
yeah.
Tunbridge, but I don't-
But does the town own it? It's a town, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think I should track this?
I can,
Could you?
I can't remember his name.
it's John something, it's like John Carter.
If you could get that to us,
Okay.
yeah, that would be great.
He was a nice guy.
No, super
But
nice.
it's-
I think we wanted to pay him, but
It's okay.
that was his.
Well, I
business.
don't
So he
wanna-
might come over for an hour and give you a lot of tips.
I don't want to, I want to work within the parameters. Did I
We
leave
should all
anything
have
out?
sticky.
No, I
I can go get some. I'll make a note for next time.
So add the
Gillespie.
Gillespie to the list I put to them, and
How do you spell it?
Yeah.
GIL, I got that, ES,
G-I-L-L.
T-I-F-L.
GILL.
You're really quick here.
You know.
Okay, let's go.
You can keep going, ES. BY?
Gillespie, P-I-E.
That's five.
Okay. So let's see, it looks, and where did you say this from? I wrote down.
No idea. Or Randolph office.
I will find it.
I'm known for their service.
Yeah, okay, so it started. Good, I don't wanna outrule Ben though, because he put in the hot water heater pretty quickly. But so when I get all the bids, do I come back to you then?
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know, I think it's up to you, but it still would be nice to.
Well, I was thinking, not make any promises, but, we potentially have a general fund surplus this year, and we'd probably ask town how that part of this, we can't roll that over, we have to have the towns approve however it's spent or give it back.
okay,
But potentially, if we had a special town meeting, and if we knew, well, we need 20,000 for the library furnace, that could be an article to vote on.
Good, yeah.
and if we covered half that.
Right,
then we
exactly.
could- Yeah, okay,
It was like a matching thing.
okay,
What we go for.
all right, if I have them, for the next meeting, I'll let you know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, all right, I guess, that's that then. Thank
Right,
you.
thank you.
Okay, my turn. So I think estimate is more of a technical title for what I'm about to give you, because we just had our most recent outdoor space committee, and so right now, for Sue's memorial, we've got $11,425, and the fence for the new estimate for it, because at 8,500, it was, the whole thing was vinyl all around, and we decided that the back, where the very back, like where all the knotweed is, can be split rail with mesh, and that will be significantly less in a lot of panels. So I can only guess like maybe 7,500 is actually what it will cost us at 8,500, but he's gonna come back to me with a new quote on that. So that leaves us with like quite a bit of money left over, which we're pretty excited about.
Spend it on furnace.
I don't think that, I want the
Sue's
plaque for Sue right there on the furnace.
You get it after work.
That was Wendy's idea, was to have a fire pit out there. I liked that idea. I thought that was cool. Anyway, so the outdoor space committee and I had a lot of really good ideas of how we want to use that money. A story walk like down at the fairgrounds was big, but we decided to use our COVID money for that, because they'll buy the frames but not the posts. So we could use, so it's $2,000 that we'll get, and then we'll ask the friends for the other $2,000 to make the whole story walk complete at the library building. So that will go all around the fence on their own posts. And you might have seen the frame. It's at the library right now. I brought it down to the bake sale for people to see. It's like this metal frame that you slide the pages in between two pieces of plexiglass. They're expensive, but they're permanent and I think really worthwhile. I think of all of the community events that we could have that would use those, not just stories for kids. And I just think it'll be really well used. So that'll go. I was just walking around down there trying to like plot it all out exactly, and I definitely want to bounce ideas off of the committee before we make any decisions. But I'm thinking, when I look online at them, they look really pretty, like set in a garden space and then set next to a bench, and they don't have to be far apart. Like people will make them a mile long, trail that you walk on. People do that all the time. I think that's a really cool idea, and it would be neat in the Curiositorium or the town forest or something. But for this, they'll be closer, and it'll go from the back of the library around. So did you saw that image that Aaron made of the so you see that there's like the two sections of fence. So it'll go around the inside of one part and then around the other part, the front part, and end on the front right of the building. So that's what I'm guessing, something like that, but scattered all around the yard in basically a large circle. So that's one thing. And then I made a pretty slideshow to show you the rest. None of it is like permanent. Like we don't know how much everything costs yet. People are, each person took an item and they're going to like research how we can get it hopefully made locally. It's like ideal. But a lot of them can't be. So I'll try to just show you. So the first thing is, okay, so we're gonna get one of these big sun covers, like in like at Orange County Fair and Child Center, around the back, so we can take that down in the winter. So that'll be good. Then this looks cooler, but ours won't look like that. But there's gonna be some kind of like reading nook. There's like this cement kind of nook next to the place where you walk in. To the right of the place where you walk into the basement for the book sale, there's like a cement nook. We'll make like a little deck, like a couch, kind of cool area to sit on. I'm good at story hours, so this is where I thrive. Okay, so whoops, I can just make it big. So Jody's on this one because she's obviously the preschool expert. Seating, story, hours. Oh, it's awkward. I should.
Is it gonna cancel itself out?
Are you? Okay.
Maybe at the end.
Yes. We will have, someone should,
Yeah, you can just email it to me.
I will. So yeah, seats for the kids, probably something movable, something we can like stack up and put away. This is AstroTurf on top. I got that idea vetoed by the rest of the committee.
Real grass.
No, I don't know what they wanted. They didn't like that. So we're gonna have like new, like a sensory garden or an edible garden or a bird garden. After the bird guy came and it was so popular, I thought, we're into this. We could go places with the bird idea.
Who's the bird?
Nathaniel Sharp, from the Vermont Center for Eco Studies. He's gonna come again September 4th for fall migration. Should come. Sandbox with a cover. This was basically where it all began. This was my first original idea, Mariah knows. I was like, don't you just want a pot of coffee and a sandbox at the library? Yes, pretty little friends. I mean, this isn't the one. This is just like, none of these are the ones. These are just like, okay, like we were talking about it as a group. So these are all, and each person, like I said, has a different item that they're working on, and they're gonna come back and like say, this is what it will cost.
Yes, he wanted the same.
That was his. Yeah, he's on. Tiny picnic table for little ones. Mud kitchen. This one's for Gary, actually. I thought Gary might like that.
The Red Road.
Mhm. Yeah, we've got a lot of mud in Tunbridge, so. A nice giant picnic table. I put a nice adult beverage on there to show this too is for adults.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the sign. And Erin had a good idea. This is not official, so even though it's recorded. But she had a good idea that, you know, the little kids couldn't say Sue Barnaby, they called her Sue Bumblebee.
Yeah.
And so she got Bumblebee Garden, could be a good name for it. So, yeah, so we're excited and we have obviously like a bunch of money to work with, and I think it'll probably be just right in the end, but, get any questions?
When might this all happen?
Well, the fence, it takes 10 weeks for the supplies to get in, so that, well, I know, it's really long. But, so that's like right around the fair, but if Gordy didn't care, I'm just gonna put it in then. I'll wait for apparently they said you don't have to wait for the COVID money to come in to get, but I'm definitely going to wait for it to come in because I have no idea how that would work either way. So the story walk, I'll put up after the fence goes up. It would be too hard to do it before. And then all the pieces, we've thought about putting some of the pieces in before, like the sandbox, maybe get the sign made before. There's a few people locally that are asking if you guys have any suggestions for that, because I think Louise Beretta was on that and she's come up short with who could make a sign like that. So if you have any ideas on that, that could be nice to have someone local make it with flowers on the edge is what everyone wanted. So hopefully by September we'll have parts of it done, but I'm imagining, you know, a full year before it's really complete.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I can land off there.
Yeah. Like, would he make picnic tables too, or does he like do like more of the carving stuff with the signs?
I'm not sure what you want to do. Most everywhere,
Oh yeah.
you know. Think about it.
Send me his info.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'll think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that. I thought of that too, but I like not to be picky, but Lee made us a table and like it has to be more flat for kids. Like I want it to not have slats. I'm being picky, but like when you go to write like and draw and make art, you don't want it to be all bumpy. It's gotta be like nice flat.
You want it at one time or less.
No, that'll be all dented in, yeah. So I might be, I just feel like it would be a real bummer if everybody had to bring a drawing board outside to like draw.
The standards of people's on tables by the side of the road really decline.
I guess, exactly.
Anybody can do it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
I mean, Lee and Miles made ours.
It does the job, but.
Yeah, exactly. We just can eat off it.
You don't talk about
Exactly.
that. On record, at least probably one.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, he's gonna like.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. I will report back when I have more solid numbers, but
But what COVID money are you talking about? The coming COVID money?
Yeah,
We all
so-
hear about, but.
yeah, so I actually am filling out the application for the library.
Yeah. My email.
Thank you. Yep, now I've got it all, because apparently when you do it, you only have 15 minutes to actually complete the thing. Like, so they give you a worksheet beforehand, so you like get all your answers right, and then you sit down and you don't mess it up. But it's pretty basic, and you had to attend like a webinar on it in order to get the money. So something like that might happen to the town's money, but ours was pretty cut and dry, like based on the census, how they're splitting up the money. So we got 2,000.
Which was kind of the bottom,
That was the lowest.
pretty
we
much,
got.
that was guaranteed amount.
Yeah, the average for the state was 5,500. But it makes sense because it was based on population. So we were I checked, we were the same as Chelsea. Just wanted to make sure it was fair.
Okay. You have some information from the lead in your packets.
All right.
It's after the energy audit.
So it's like,
It's in chronological.
Nice, thank you.
thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Teresa.
Yeah, there are two.
So I think at the last meeting, I was sort of rambling on because I was not ready. But basically, what this is, what I've sent you is, so last year, a group of us me from Tunbridge and with some Stratford folks, we went to the town and they wanted to update I think they hadn't accepted the most recent conflict of interest policy, the model policy from VLCT. So after an incident with the lister, we went to them and proposed adding non-discrimination language to the policy, to the model policy. So it was already called the conflicts of interest and ethical conduct policy, but it doesn't really. It's mostly about conflicts of interest straight from the LCT, business stuff or embezzlement, things like that. So what we did, and the two documents I think you have the model policy, which is dated maybe January, and then January 2018. And then the one that Stratford accepted is October 2020. And I actually later found the document where it's got track changes from the two, so I can send that if you want. But basically, all that we did was change, we added definitions, the definition section on discrimination and harassment, and protected class, which is the sort of normal definition that's in all personnel policies and things like that. So that's including but not limited to gender, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, race, color, ethnicity, place of origin, religion, disability, age, veteran status, marital status. I guess we did add the et cetera. That's probably not in most policies. And then we changed the pronouns so they're gender neutral. And then most of what we change is just the rest of the policy, adding a reference to that it includes discrimination. So the enforcement section, we didn't change really any of that except to add consequences for failure to follow the conflict of interest procedures or violations of prohibition against discrimination. So we added the last phrase. So basically, I just brought this to you. I talked to John about it before randomly after the town meeting. And I know that Stratford was very happy that we did this for them. It just wasn't really something that they had the time to do because they had so much on their plate. But when the other thing was after we sent this policy, or Stratford sent this policy to Populace, I think I put that in my email. the attorney and he reviewed it and okayed it. And then, so I brought it to you because I didn't know if it's something that you all wanted to adopt in case you needed to. I think part of the confusion from what I was rambling last meeting, this actually doesn't have any way to remove an elected official because that's not something you can do without a charter in Vermont. It's really just if someone does something, maybe one of you has a private conversation with them and is like, hey, this is, you put, if I'll use the exact example for Stratford, you put a racist slur in a town communication, like, what can we do to rectify this? It could be a private conversation, it could be a public conversation, or if it gets really bad, you could ask them to resign, but they don't have to resign. So there's actually no way to remove elected officials still in this, which I think is fine. It just holds people accountable, it sets a standard that all of your employees already have, but for some reason elected officials don't. I don't really know why. And then I think those are really the only changes that we did, other than adding Stratford's name to the policy instead of name of municipality.
How common is it for towns to have this?
It's not super common actually for elected officials, which is really strange. It's something that we thought was strange. Towns who have charters, some of them have it. It depends. It doesn't, it's not consistent and it's not all in this, but this is I can go back and look at the towns. There were some towns in Vermont and in Massachusetts who did a similar thing, and that's how we got the idea to add it to this particular policy, because it already had enforcement built in and we didn't change that. But it's not a statewide thing yet.
Similar.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'd like to actually take time to actually read through it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I can send, it might be easier. I don't know if you all have Word. I can maybe put this, see if the track changes go to a PDF. So you can see the actual changes made to the model policy, like line by line. And then if you're interested, so what Stratford did is we did all this stuff and they had the attorney review it and they put it out for public comment. And they may have had a public meeting too, Warren, I'm pretty sure they had at least one. And then decided to vote on it. So if you want to do something like that, like I could just prepare the document and you could just take it and do how your process, whatever you feel comfortable doing.
So on our personnel policy, do we have? Like, I wanna look at that.
I can pass it back.
Yeah, to see, what do we have in there for like? Did we adopt the LCT model?
I don't remember that, but I don't know if it has anything to do with elected officials.
There's a separate thing for personnel policies on VLC. I could try to pull it up, but it's not.
Is this just,
This is
the
just
model, BLCT model policy was just about elected officials?
elected and appointed officials. Appointed officials aren't as much of the thing, but it's for elected and appointed officials.
You must know where everything is.
No, I don't. I just looked at that today, so I knew where it was.
So it applies to full-time and part-time employees of the town of Tunbridge.
But you can think that's fine.
Take care, buddy.
Thank you.
That in a minute.
Yeah, that's right. Did you say valuable or invaluable?
And then the next part, it's interesting, it says, except as stated here, elected officers and their statutory assistants, members of town boards and commissions, volunteers, seasonal employees, and persons who provide the town services on a contract basis are not redundant. So I wonder if even the definition of part-time is in like 20 hours.
Yeah.
Like between 20 and, like you just.
I think 32 is full time.
Okay, so it's in that 20 to 32 sort of range, like you just work with the town for about 1 hour a week, or
Right.
part-time, you're not even, right?
With Andy shoveling snow in the winter.
Right, exactly, that's like, is Judy, she's not even part-time, is she?
I'm not sure exactly.
Well, just the transfer station, that's right.
Yeah.
She's the one part-time. And just assistant use. So this would cover all those other people?
This specifically covers appointed and elected officials. So, yeah. All appointed and elected.
Elected or statutorily appointed. More executive, administrative, legislature, basically just all functions.
Well, I wonder, like, would it cover the Trails Committee?
Yeah, because it's
See, appointed.
There,
Not by us, but by.
Yeah.
I guess we did approve them.
statutorily appointed.
I think everything comes back to us. Planning commission. Even if they appoint someone to do that, it still comes back to the select board.
Right.
Stops here.
But not necessarily hired.
Yeah, I think it would cover all the bases then.
You don't want it to be right on. You're welcome.
In this day and age, it's probably a must.
Yeah.
I know.
Because it's only criminal, right, that they could potentially be removed, but it wouldn't really be a select board thing, it would be more of a
I don't know
in
the,
violation of the state statute.
yeah, but I don't know the process if you actually have to step in or not, if it's like, if someone stole money.
Did you say something about embezzlement?
I did, yeah.
There's something about if somebody is deemed insane or something like that, they can be removed.
Uh-oh, there goes Brian.
I'm insane, I'm invaluable.
Can't be all.
They're rich, then it's best.
But I think the only thing is if I was declared insane, that would be an excuse to be removed from office. And also incapacitated if I had been in a coma for a length of time or something, then that could cause me to be removed.
Feels like general hospital.
Well, that might already. be some sort of state statute.
I think it is, that's why I mentioned.
But for example, say, an elected official was like consistently, not physically violent, but verbally violent in a meeting, could you take action to remove that
I don't
person
think so.
besides just punishment? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, and that's.
But
part
is
of-
that something else that you were trying to also help work with, is that you wouldn't have to have a charter to?
That's at the state
Yeah.
level, yeah, but, so we being that same group that did this for Stratford, we're talking to the state about seeing if there could be a baseline just procedure for being able to remove elected or statutorily appointed officials, without needing a town charter, but that's, I don't know where that is exactly right now, I haven't heard that yet, but that would be different from this. This is just kind of taking what's already there and saying, well, it also applies to harassment and discrimination.
And in Stratford's case, it was a lister acting as a lister, right?
Yeah, and so that's the thing too, is, people want to know. I mean, they don't want to know, can I be racist in my personal life? But they want to know, like, do I have to watch what I say everywhere? And it's, it's kind of a gray area. I mean, you're all, like, if you work for a business, you're always, the face of that business, even when you're not working. But this really applies to, like, that particular communication was a lister. It was a communication about, maybe it was grievances or taxes. And it was communicated by the listers, and the lister added all the listers' names without their consent. And then came back and said, well, I know you can't remove me because there's no way you can, but he ended up, leaving on his own, which was fine. So that was kind of when we were like, wow, anything we could have done if he decided not to leave. And that we went to the state and asked, we went to VLCT, and asked, and they all were like, no, actually, no, there's nothing you could have done. And so that seemed very terrible.
Well, just amazing, in 200 years, it hasn't really come up, like, how do we get rid of this person besides elections? So you
Right.
have, like, for almost 2 years,
Yeah.
somebody who won, or whatever the term would be. Detention free.
Yeah. And I think if there ever is a way to remove anybody at the state level, it would have a very detailed process, lots of due diligence and participation from the community. So that's, if that ever happens, it's down the road, but it's something kind of help.
I haven't drawn that line now to my social media, like, as select board person, you're fine, but then you go home and get on Facebook and you're a crazy racist person.
Right.
What do you do?
But yeah. And this isn't in here, but I just remember reading, because we were talking about stuff at the state level. I feel like something else you can do, and maybe it's for the incapacitated person, is take them off of committees and like make sure they're not active. Like maybe you can't officially remove them, but you can like make them dormant or something like that. I have to
Non-voting
look
or
it up.
something.
Yeah. But anyway, that's not, has nothing to do with this.
You want to go and say, you gotta keep coming to meetings. You just can't.
It's a catch-22, like if you try to get people to say you're insane, then you're not sane because you're asking people to say you're insane. That the book is about leaving war, like they're in war and the guy's trying to get discharged for being insane, but the doctor's like, you can't be discharged for being insane because I know what you're doing and you're sane by asking. That's not
Sounds very complicated.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so I'll send this document to you and then we can just, you can let me know what the next steps are. We can talk about it next meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for
Thank you for
spearheading.
considering.
Thank you for not bringing your waterfall.
I might next time. You never know.
It'd be interesting to, one of Bill Chester's daughters lives in Halifax, Vermont. And they have this huge problem with a select board member, and conflict of interest, like somehow, I don't know all the details, but it was like he somehow personally benefited, I think, from, like a clear conflict of interest from selling like a piece of land to the town.
Oh.
Like, and I know at the state level, when they often, like, people are voting on something that will, that is, might be a conflict of interest in some very vague way, so they have very specific rules that, if you're a realtor and you're voting on a piece of legislation that might help you, they say it has to be very specific about how material it would help you. Not just like your class of people, like it helps farmers or it helps realtors or whatever. So that would be interesting to see what they say about that too. I mean, just like, or like tonight, it's like, we voted, Matt Loftus, forbid my brother-in-law, should I recuse myself for that, or I'm not materially benefiting from voting that.
Unless you're one of the operators at one of them.
Right.
One of the three options.
But in small towns, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I think there was an issue like that where someone on the select board, I don't know if this was Stratford, it might have been, approved like a permit or something for a project they were working on.
Right.
They voted,
Right.
and that's also hard too, but that's probably more of an easy like recusal there because you're doing the work. And there's enough people on the board to step out of that one, but.
You're gonna carve that sign yourself, Gary.
I might just do that.
Me.
Yeah, you're up.
I think you guys had questions for me, or do you want me to,
So Becky asked me to have Matt come, or
was it about special projects?
it was because she had mentioned that you guys had discussed dispersal of the public funds for possibly fences at the transfer station or possibly formerized project, that type of thing. And she thought maybe it would be good if Matt just came, kind of discussed it with you, you could see how much money there is to disperse, that type of thing. And then
The timing came up last meeting, like why it was always like before the end of the fiscal
Right.
year, right? And then
Yeah, you know, I've had to speak with my fellow trustees about timing, and I lost. I mean, I think we always used to try to get it. So from our perspective, all we want to do is make sure that the requests and dispersals fall in the same financial year, because otherwise it just makes reporting difficult. Otherwise, we don't care. And I think just because this was a weird year, Liz was convinced that we should be funding for this coming year, not for the whatever. We should just be approving July. So we're approving July. Nothing
for the
fundamental.
whole year, right, to
Yeah,
disperse the
exactly.
same.
Right. But our intention would be to disperse after our next meeting. So money would come in like 2 or 3 weeks usually.
And when the next meeting,
It was supposed to be Friday, but I think we're pushing it to next week because some of us are not.
Yep.
It being that time of the year. And in terms of, in terms of what to use the special projects funds for, there are no hard and fast rules. I mean, that's sort of the weirdest of our funds in that we just go off of the general request of the grantor that it be sort of projects that benefit the town, and they specifically didn't want us to benefit certain subsets of like certain committees. But things like, I think as we mentioned in the past, things like weatherizing the front, like the entrance here, actually doing work to improve the transfer station was something that's expressly mentioned. And I think, if we want to go from putting up a fence at the transfer station to doing work at the library, I think that undoubtedly, I mean, my 1/3 voice for Jesse is that probably absolutely falls in some way. So that's it. And in terms of how much money we have, and there may be restrictions, but sorry. So, okay, special budget 50. It would be like $2,000 or something like that, I think. We have special projects has $50,000 right now, and we generally approve like, well, if we went by the policy that we use for everybody else, it would be 4%. So 5% is what, 2,500. So something under 2,500. We have made exceptions for special projects, and I think we funded more than just a 4% disbursement. That's something that I'd have to ask Rob and Liz what they're thinking about. Okay.
So, do any funds have real strings attached to them? Like, it's just
Do any of the funds?
Yeah,
I mean,
just roads or this.
Well,
is
oh,
just-
yeah, well, I mean, all of them do. So just in general, yeah, we have like town highway. So in general, for state funds, town highway has to be used for town highway. And I think you can debate what's at the edges of town highway. Like if we decided we were going to mow all the chervil, I mean, or something like that, that would be a problem. We have the weird situation with the cemetery funds because we've got 2 cemetery funds, school library. Some of the, like, there are some restrictions under the town highway fund because some of the bequests limited it to use for equipment, not, crushed gravel or something like that. And so if we were presented with a big request for something like a truck, I think we would have to go in and just make sure there weren't restrictions. And I think the same thing holds true with the library. The library was Edith grant, is that right? And there were some restrictions for the town library and, for the school library. And in fact, I think that went to court because there was some change in circumstances of the library and it was actually ruled on by court. So the answer is yes. I mean, in general, each of the funds has to be used for the sort of specific stated purpose. And then there are other restrictions, but they're not that onerous.
Or if they age out, as you're saying, right?
Or if they age out, yeah. I mean, like, for instance, if Tunbridge and Chelsea schools ever truly combined and we moved everybody up to Chelsea, I think we'd have to at least ask a lawyer what we would do with those funds.
Right.
Because I think under some circumstances, like if all of Tunbridge's roads became state roads, I think then what you do is actually go to the court and say, we can't fulfill the purpose. And the court might, in some circumstances, say, track down the heirs of whoever gave the money and give that money back to the heirs. Yeah. So.
And when's the deadline for these requests?
Ideally, like this coming week, I would say. So I think, right, I think the only ones we haven't got requests for are fire department, which never asks for money.
But there's money there.
There is, yeah, like $42,000. And right, fire department, and there are two cemetery funds, we can combine those two, so we consider that as certain. So the requests we haven't received are special projects and fire department. And we've done we actually had a really good year. At the start of last year, we had 956,000 under management, and we now have almost 1.2. So it's actually quite a good year.
Is there more discussion about what came at the town meeting?
We are in the process of discussing. We asked, Aileen was actually at the last meeting, and we put some questions to Vermont League of Cities and Towns about whether there's any guidance about green investing, and their response was actually not very helpful. It's basically, no, there's no guidance. Look at your documents. And so, if we were to really run it around, it would require going back to every granting document to see whether there are any restrictions there. So we have, I think, quite a bit more work cut out for us because they're interested in answering. But yeah, I mean, we would continue to look at it. And that's better.
Also going forward, will the trustees for public funds accept, say like Euclid Barnum gave money to the town for, just for the, for cows?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like,
So I
like
think,
at church.
yeah, no, absolutely. So I think we are statutorily required. If somebody gave money to the town, or if the town had, I mean, frankly, I think this is actually a question that I was thinking about it with respect to any unspent money from previous years. The trustees statutorily have to manage town highway funds and cemetery funds. And it may be library, but I don't think that's the case. So if somebody gave a bunch of money if Euclid gave money for town highways, the town would have no choice but either, I think, I guess would have no choice but to give it to the trustees and then ask for some of that money back. And then in terms of the other funds, like special projects funds, we manage it because we're the trustees and that's what we do. So if Euclid had established a cow fund, we would manage the cow fund. But we wouldn't be statutorily obligated. And I mean, in terms of people just giving money, I think it would, keeping it down to a small number of funds is more manageable. So ideally, it would be put it in the special projects fund and just have some restrictions on it. The risk there being that, 2 generations from now, people don't look at the deeds and they just say, oh, this says special projects. That sounds like a special project. So having just said that might make more sense that Jersey fund.
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Right, yeah, sorry, not cow, Jersey.
And then what sort of limitations obligations are on the trustees. If you wanted to spend like all of the principal, could you do that?
Subject to restrictions from grantors. But I think, yes, like, we could spend, well, yeah. Something like, I think, the Edith Grant Fund, we are only allowed to spend interest. But for others of them, we could spend it down to nothing. And then another thing is, so just in terms of long-term planning, another thing that we could consider doing is not, I mean, working with you guys not to take 4% distributions every year, but sort of build up stored earnings. And then for something like town highway, when they have $300,000 for a new piece of equipment, you'd have more in the bank to use. Or the same thing holds true for the library. Even though actually, I think the library could take a little more than it has this year.
Really?
Yeah, I think you could take $1,000.
That's great. A little bit more,
Yeah.
that's good. That's really good. Yeah, because I think she said that there was 2 more $1,000.
Yeah, so we can, I mean, we will check when we meet, and just see what 4% is, but if you want that, or if
Maybe
you
she'll
want
have
to,
quotes.
I can, yeah, I can, you know, say that, but if you need as much money to get, you can probably do a little more.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So I didn't realize that you were in charge of the Edith Grant Fund, that's the school library,
Right.
right? And so does anything change now that it's a combined position for Chelsea Tunbridge? I mean, the library is one librarian. Like,
Oh.
how could she spend the money, or I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, we should probably look at that. So actually, so Elaine is gone.
She's retired,
Okay,
yeah.
I knew she was retired.
A
No,
woman
sorry,
who just
retiring,
moves out.
literally, not metaphorically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that probably is something we should consider then, because I think but there's still 2 libraries, right?
There's 2 libraries and 1 library.
Are you
And I'm
gonna hire
just-
somebody new, or just the
No.
Chelsea one will be?
There's 1 librarian amongst the 2 buildings. Don't get me started.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it,
She's awesome. She'll do a great job, and it's her thing. But yeah, I'm curious how she'll be able to, because it's usually for collection development, and that's what all the money's for, right? It's
right, I mean,
books.
well, what we funded in the past was, Elaine was digitizing, I think there was some money that had to be spent on computer equipment or something like that, and that was stuff that we funded. But if it went into a general fund that was being used like for common purchases of books between the 2 libraries, where you weren't able to say, we are funding Tunbridge books, I think we might have a problem there. So it's probably, I mean, we can even talk with Michael and just say, you have to be a little careful. I mean, money's fungible. So if we take our $1,000 and say you have to spend it on books, they can take the other $1,000 and spend it on paper that's shared with Chelsea or something like that. So you can only track it so far, but yeah, I think we do have to be a little careful.
Or if Chelsea has a similar fund, just their school library.
Right, yeah, it's something to consider, right? Because I mean, there'll be like a lot of work upfront separating books in preparation for the change that will occur.
But Euclid is a good example, just because, I mean, that is, you guys have all heard me say at town meeting that there aren't any Edith grants anymore. Nobody gives any money to them. An exception being somebody like Euclid, who very well could think about the town and leave it in money. Yeah.
Or in his honor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just looked up the statute as an FYI. Trustees of public funds, real and personal at state, accept U.S. public money held by a town and trust for any purpose, including cemetery trust funds, unless the person giving the same otherwise directs, shall be under the charge and management of the 3 trustees.
Yeah.
So it's not just cemetery and highway, but it's pretty much anything.
And because it's an elected position, you guys have a lot of leeway. I mean, you can be fiscally conservative, you can.
Right, no, I think exactly it. If we decided to authorize expenditure of everything, and it was not unreasonable, like we're, I think, governed by general principles of good behavior and behaving responsibly, there's nothing that anybody can do other than vote us out at the next town meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, the library's gonna close because of a furnace,
Right.
and if we completely.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's.
Spend
right,
down this
that is
fund and save the
absolutely right.
library,
Because we always say our policy is, which we have revised over the years, has been, I think maybe it used to be 6%, and then we got advice that 4% was more sustainable, so we reduced to 4%. But we've always said, in the face of an emergency, we would authorize something. And then we've also said that, there is a declining market, we're not going to authorize anything.
Right.
And we didn't spend anything in 2020. I don't even have any problems.
And so how do we make a request?
I think Mariah just,
Yeah,
fills it, you have the form, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So-
if you just let me know
Right.
what you want, that's kind of why I brought
Yeah.
that, so you guys can think about it.
Yeah.
We got like a week.
What was our thought?
Well, I guess it was Liz told us way back months ago that we had $1,800 special projects fund.
Yep.
And I mentioned it to Brian, defense. So I guess that's where I was coming from. Take 2,000, you say we could have.
And I talked to Liz right before this in Maine, she was in Maine, and she, I think, would be supportive of that as well. So it's just hard nose job.
So it could be either for the furnace or Bowlby Garden.
Yeah, right, and so
Yeah.
I would say, like, in terms of this distinction between inside and outside projects, I don't think that there's any such distinction from the special projects fund. So, I mean, that's a town,
Just a benefit.
yeah, exactly, so I don't think there would be, I mean, moreover, I think that would be like very much in keeping with.
That's great, because I mean, the amount of money that we've gotten from Sue's memorial is far surpassed anything I could have imagined, so. And I just to point out that, that amount of money, there was a few large sums, but mostly it was in like, $75, so I just thought
That's a lot.
it speaks volumes to her character. so.
Right.
But that's good to know that 1,800 could be flexible for this.
Yeah.
That would be,
Well,
yeah.
So you want me to put first parts?
I do. I know what those are.
I think does it have to have an earmark, or can it just go to the library and be sent at their discretion?
I think we probably prefer to have your mark, I mean, if Mariah's okay with saying for the furnace.
I can't imagine them finding a furnace that's only $8,000, so,
Maybe you can sell them yours in that case.
yeah, I don't think so, I don't think I'm gonna do
No, then you get the $8,000 one, and you make the difference.
that. My house is smaller,
Summertime, you don't need a furnace.
exactly, it's fine,
But it's so pretty, right?
it is really pretty, I show everybody. like, her photos. Yeah.
I would get the furnace.
Well, flowers,
But
anyway,
That- that's not so the 1,800 is the Comstack though, right? That was originally the Comstack Memorial.
And that's what they're talking
Yeah.
about.
But how am I gonna be honoring that with the furnace though? Like, I feel
Oh,
like
no, look, honestly,
that I don't have to like.
no,
plaque it.
First of
Okay.
all, that was an anonymous name. No, but she,
Oh.
but that's okay, but actually, there was no, like, they never wanted their
That's
names
okay.
associated with
Okay.
whatsoever. But also, I mean, they were talking about like beautifying the transfer station, insulating the highway
Got it.
buildings and stuff like that. Very sort of practical
Right, okay.
things. I don't think there was
That's-
any desire
Okay.
for
That,
plaque or-
that feels better. Okay. Not sure
Yeah.
how I could adjust.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I always call it the Comstock and on the spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the Ralph Howard.
Right. Sorry.
No, no, they are long.
Only the quarter.
They're very nice people. They appreciate that.
Okay, that's good news.
All right, so I guess you'll make a request.
Yes, so do we have to make a motion or anything for putting in that request for the furnace? Or do you just want me to?
I think John will jump on that.
So,
Do you have a dollar figure? That makes sense.
Is it just,
I would just say like 4%.
okay,
And we will,
you'll do the math out?
I move that
Okay.
what the select board requests, 4% of the special projects from the trustees.
I second.
All right,
Or and to be used
yeah,
for the library.
Library first.
all in favor?
Town
Aye.
library.
Town library.
Aye.
Aye.
so it'll be like just about $10,000.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for coming in. That was
Yeah,
very
you're welcome.
informative, As always.
Oh, it's in Canada. My sister lives in British Columbia.
In Banff or
Yeah,
where?
it is in Banff, yeah. Yeah, she's where it's like 114 degrees. Although she's actually.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, no, happy,
So when's the next meeting? A week from Friday, you think?
I think maybe Thursday, because Friday, the listers are here on Friday, and I think they don't have this. But we have to check with Rob.
When's it made back?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's two. So, next up in your packet, you will have two contracts for policing, because we need to renew. And Gary asked me to put this on the agenda because we got an offer from the Royalton Police Department. So that we can possibly not renew.
thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you in person finally.
Yeah.
Not that Zoom calls aren't fun.
And so anyways, there's both of them there. I will just make a note that with Orange County, the total amount I believe was 10,000. And that only broke out to 217 hours that they were gonna give us a year.
About 280.
208 hours. Yeah, okay, maybe I did my math wrong. Royalton wants to provide 520 hours at $50 an hour, so obviously it's significant price increase. There you go.
Wait, so what per hour? of
$50
Orange
an
County?
hour for 500.
Orange County,
What does it come out to?
Orange County comes out to $48 per hour, and they're only providing 217
Right.
hours.
So as far as hourly charge goes, it's pretty similar.
Yes,
Yeah, Royalton would be 26,000.
26,000.
yeah.
Where did they come up with that number? Do we know?
I'm not sure.
Well, the
I
price is
don't know
the
that.
same, just talking
I mean,
twice as much, more than twice as much hours.
Right.
which might be nice with the amount of stuff kind of going on
Right.
in the area.
But potentially, would they be amenable to less?
I'm not sure. This was something that Loretta had sent Gary, so I had just asked her to forward it to me. I haven't discussed it. I can certainly ask
Yeah,
her.
I understand. Well, we don't have $26,000.
Well, that's another thing, and who's gonna stand up at town meeting and say, we spent $26,000 on police.
When does the renewal
When we
start?
budgeted.
This one was supposed to be July 8th, so currently we're not in contract.
But we budgeted how much?
10,000.
So we went
Because
from
we
6
went up.
to 8 to 10?
No, we went 6 to 10.
Right, okay. So we have 10,
We had 10 of that.
right? So we're not spending any, right?
Well,
We didn't honor them.
we had a contract.
Well, I suppose because the hourly rate is about the same.
Yeah.
We can tell Loretta that we want to just spend 10,000.
Right, exactly.
Right,
But I don't know.
right. Well, maybe we'll
That's
have,
what I was wondering about that.
But I don't know, maybe they don't. Maybe for some reason she
Can't guarantee safety.
wants
she can't
So,
afford to do it.
so she can't do it for $10,000.
Right.
I don't know, I just a guess. He's a homemade cracker.
Oh, thanks for bringing that.
I'm
That's so
feeling
nice.
sociable. I was wishing I could turn off my screen and eat the taco, so.
Is a taco with you?
There's tacos at my house. I knew there was.
Oh, I'm also supposed to set the record straight on Zoom that Devin made me salmon. I didn't even have to make it.
When you got
When
home?
I got home, there was salmon
ready
and
for you.
dinner and everything. And he
What?
wanted me to make it on the record
I'll
because
adjourn and say that.
I did, because last week I was like, I'm gonna have to make it when I get home.
Right,
Devin
I know.
made me make pizza.
Oh,
but
look.
You did a
she
great
hung
job,
up.
Devin.
Why did I
That's
deny?
what she was actually waiting for, was that confirmation. She's like, okay, now.
I think so. I think he wanted to know what time I would be home.
Oh, wow. She wants
We'll
to.
see, maybe it's
I
later,
just-
but
That's other than you.
I'm not sure.
I was gonna be bring up a piece.
Full pizza.
Okay, so are we just gonna table this and discuss, and I'll check with Loretta.
Yeah, find out
Thank you. This is great.
She would
where
take-
she came up with that hour number and right if she would take that hour.
Okay,
And then sort of as a trial year, if we were really happy with it.
And I haven't looked this one over, it's just the same contract as last year
Yeah.
from Orange County.
This is the last year's contract. right?
no, this is, oh yes, I have
This
this
is
year's
fine.
contract. That would be available to sign.
Okay.
What is the one you got the same hourly figure?
Can I ask a police question? So when
$48.
this happens, like, do they come, are these hours counted just when people call, or do they have specific days that they come for these hours each week?
They're
Or
supposed to, or they usually spend so many hours a month doing like, traffic.
And how do you know
Speed
that they're doing? I mean, do you just take your
They-
word for it?
They send an
Come on.
invoice and it has
I'm
like
not trying
their
to be mean, I'm
breakdown,
curious.
yeah. It has like a spreadsheet of what they did and where they were and where they patrolled and their hours.
Okay,
But we have had
kind of see where
questions
the, I was just curious, you know, how that works.
Yeah.
about that. It would be interesting, at least, I don't know if we both think about it, if Loretta wanted to come.
Yeah.
Talk to us just about why, what her ideas are for.
Yeah,
Do you want me to see if she
Yeah.
can next
It'd be
meeting?
great, because
because we talked to Bill several times a couple of years ago.
there's just endless frustrations, I feel, with law enforcement in town, like, you know, like.
Well, I think it all boils down to nobody's getting help.
Yeah.
You know, you can hire Orange County for $20,000 a year, but if they, nobody's that comes here.
Yeah, I mean, the latest example was during the July 5th parade. Didn't wear something,
I
pulled
mean,
out and flew down Main Street, went around the fire truck the other way. And license plate, on footage, drone footage, and then it just, did you hear anything more about it? It just ends.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, Orange County was here,
And
you
there's a
know.
deputy down there.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Sheriff was up
Yeah.
here.
So I would like, just like to ask Loretta, for example, like, it's mostly a frustration with communication, like, I mean, I know that Orange County has their hands tied sometimes, but if they just said like, we, you know, caught this person, we talked to them, or whatever, if they have a court date, it would be nice for people in Tunbridge to know that it just doesn't end, you know, at that point.
Yeah.
And same with the Bonnie and Clyde people, you know, like we catch them.
You know, I think one thing that bothers me about, and this isn't personal, because anytime I call them up, but you hear somebody calls them, and they say, well, it's not Wednesday.
Right.
We're supposed to come on Wednesday.
All the state.
I mean, not for an emergency, but
Oh.
like if we want somebody to go check on a horse that's not getting fed or something like that, they say, well, we can't do it today. Because when,
Right
you know,
time.
next Thursday is our day to come. And I think that's weird, but if they get enough help,
And trouble with that is, they don't say, okay, I'll come to Tunbridge next
Right.
Thursday, I'll check on this horse, I'll check on this guy's speeding by. You just follow through.
Like, fire department was saying, when they called to the fair, there was some kind of serious incident, and the sheriff's department was just like, no, we're at the fair. We're not here. We're not. So they're not,
They're not proactive
right,
for me. And like former town clerks have said, that people will call up and start yammering on about something, and mostly they just want to be heard. They want somebody to say, yes, I understand.
Well, I had somebody call and, because I got them on my cell phone, so I had some timer, and it was 18 minutes of this guy saying he had to sell his home, lives in Florida. He's called the sheriff's department. They said they wouldn't go out there. He was getting death threats. He was getting this and that from his neighbors, and nobody would do anything. State police, like, just literally wanted me to listen. And was like, what are you gonna do? And I said, if you talk to them, I can't do anything. He said, well, I voted for, you know, whoever is the sheriff in Orange County, and he wouldn't help me. Sorry, you know, but that was very long. But it was small enough for him.
Yes, thank you very much.
Memorize
Say,
will
"Go
be-
home and talk to him."
That Mariah's gonna be worried now.
Oh, stop worrying, see, somebody else has to live. I mean, I do see him drive on by the road.
One went up by yesterday, but they were probably headed to Randolph.
I always think they're like looking at my kids. Are those kids supervised? Come inside.
Not very likely.
I know.
the truant officer.
Exactly.
So anyway, invite Loretta, or she
Yeah.
invite Tim.
Yeah.
And we'll have to get by without a contract.
And I don't know if we have one county come down here, but I don't. They've certainly been here.
Go
I
visit.
don't feel. They could say that we can
Right.
better.
Good, that's scary. That's,
I might just take her
Oh,
home. And then she's.
Okay, we're on to warrants.
Nice.
What about other business?
Where that's after, yeah, and I have it, this is my stack of other business that I have to talk to you about.
Yeah, I go to,
There are a couple of, yeah, oh, see, that's good.
I have other business I want to just mention now, so we can talk about it later. But Corey, what are we gonna do about that?
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Go home and look at that
Say
furnace.
hi to Lee Michael.
Yeah.
What do they get
But,
for doing highway?
but,
It's like $75 an hour, right? So,
you mean flagging,
Yeah.
yeah. But, what did we actually give them this year? I mean, last year, we only gave them like $6,000, even though, or $4,000 or something,
They didn't even
they
do the
never
whole-
spent their budget. Public safety share. So they weren't giving them any money.
That's this year. Starting with the year zero, right?
Oh, okay.
6 shades.
Well, that can't be right.
Just average one. Six.
I'll take a piece of cheese on that.
They're perfect for entertaining.
What?
Don't eat too much. Your husband is making a delicious meal. Does he just eat what you eat, or does he?
No, he's very particular, he's very picky conflict. Yeah.
And then up
He won't,
Cheerios.
won't touch salmon. Huh?
No, he eats at 4:30, so he's down.
Oh.
He's old Vermont, right?
Yeah, he had awesome sauce and some fish sticks.
And
Yeah.
as of last night.
That way, though.
No, he eats good food, he just only likes
Probably didn't
5
spend
foods.
some
So we just alternate between the nights.
So we're up to warrants.
We doing more. Pass some over them.
That one somehow. Anybody can move. Stack it up.
You got a base dig out tool at your house?
Oh,
Base dig out tool? Only $12.
For digging out bases?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have one.
Maybe you ought to get on.
Is it just, oh,
Basement.
You got a tool?
road road?
No, recreation.
Right, for the bases.
Okay. I'm sure what a base was, now I know. I thought it was just like the standard dig out.
You need a different one.
Dig out, dug out.
Sure. I'm not gonna be shy this week.
Right. Breakfast starting to get.
Yeah.
Haven't heard.
There's a big pile of sand by the horseshoe pits. Was that left over from the infield?
I'm not sure,
Just showed up.
or if that's the infield.
Oh, maybe they haven't put it on
I
yet.
haven't heard that they put it on yet. Usually Andy gets involved, but here.
He's got a spot with it. Did we convey to Eli the right signs to mow, so he's on?
I saw him, I don't know if he did.
Yeah, I'm not.
And he's complaining about the tree out here, but it's gonna fall down someday, and he said the branches are too low, so he offered it for free to trim the low branches off, so it didn't comb his hair every time he mowed.
I'm okay.
So he's gonna take the brush away.
It's not the whole tree. And I don't know if we have to, I should talk to John Dunville, but I think we should move that sign. It's like the historic marker should be somewhere else, like it'd be nicer. I don't know if they have to be on state roads or.
You have to actually have a sign saying there's a sign there.
Now, yeah, no, there's no place really to pull over, goes by so fast.
I forget it's there,
Yeah,
especially with the trees in the way.
right.
I don't know where else to put it, maybe up in the library or something.
But, when you think about it, like, way more people would see it if we had like by the gazebo on the fairgrounds, if the fair would agree to that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Than here on the road where you're going by.
Well, now you can
Even
tell.
with our digital sign.
Well, now you can tell how fast you're speaking it down, anyway.
You want me to go to the dog show?
Oh, they're not your dog's barking?
No, I mean, I do sound like that, but
I didn't plan on going to the dog show. Is it this coming weekend?
What are your dogs?
no, my dogs would not get in. Yeah, there was a dog show.
They bad,
Oh, a lot of years.
Yeah,
except last year. Dogs wear masks. Are yours mostly dogs?
they're purebred dogs, and both of them, but they're just cured, so they wouldn't go well down there.
It's not,
No, those are well
Necessarily.
behaved dogs. Mine would be like,
oh, I don't know about
want to
that.
bite
but
people.
that should be-
You didn't work with Really?
Oh, yeah, for years, before I had Davis, I would like, sit, stop, bark, feed, give them treats and all that, no, it's just their breed, they're just. Did you say, do you have somebody that has a dachshund, or was I talking to somebody else?
Well, I have a friend that has dogs. and
Okay, maybe it was me. Okay, do they bark?
Generally,
Yeah,
Davis is easier to train.
both proving difficult.
well, Lori and I had a dog named Ted, that was our son. We felt so much of it. And one time I sent Lori and Ted to obedience school. And he worked pretty good for Ted.
Yeah.
He was
I like when
he
dogs
went
get like
everywhere.
man names.
I wanted a short name that I could yell out and he would respond.
Yeah.
Most times he did.
He wasn't Edward.
Or once in a while he was Edward. when I got mad.
There you go.
Sort of like when your mother uses your middle name.
I know, exactly. I never did that, but
I just.
Lots of
have a
people
middle
do
name,
that.
so,
Really?
I mean, it was Mariah Stearns, that was it, her middle name.
She had to say it was.
Yeah, she
Whatever.
said it with an inflection, and you know. Do you have kids, Lynn?
Dogs.
Yeah.
Spencer and Henry.
Oh, cute.
No middle names.
I didn't know any Henrys, and then I met two Henrys at town meeting from.
Yeah.
Now I can't talk about my dog anymore.
No.
Like in public, people are like, what?
What kind of dogs?
They're both mixes. They're like mid, like 50 to 60 pounds, 55, 65.
Probably like the best dogs ever.
They're actually kind of jerks.
Yeah.
They're really sweet and like people, but you know, they jump a little bit.
Yeah.
Go to obedience school.
They're not used to seeing people. They're just like out in the woods, like woods dogs. And then like the poor mailman will come and for the UPS
Yeah.
guy.
My dogs are great when they're inside. They're like the sweetest. They're the cuddliest. They're like so great with Davis, all of that. And then they go outside and they see people and they bark and bark and bark. And like they see a squirrel and they spend all day sitting under the tree, like yapping at the squirrel. And it goes to my-
Yeah. We could have like a bad dog show.
That's true. Yeah, we can do that.
Where's Ferguson Waterworks?
England.
Went a long way for both.
I just looked a minute ago, but
In the future, supply coverage.
not selling.
I know, I thought it was usually pretty cheap, so.
Maybe he's not selling.
Sometimes they deliver.
Yeah, they bought it. That's
So that's good.
you had a girl named Emma helping you with chores?
Yep.
What's her story? What's her problems? She's angry,
Oh, God.
okay,
Deadbeat.
that's kind of where
She's a good girl. She's a real good girl.
she came with it once or twice, she like nice girl.
He's a deadbeat.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have any visible means of support.
Except his daughter.
She's saving her money to buy a car.
Oh, now it's all coming back to me. It had to bury home plate, that's why they bought the.
Can we
base-
dig it out?
base shovels.
These plugs. What's that? What's Beamer's Vermont municipal employees were trying to?
I'm not sure.
Something like that.
You know, set you up with a 401k.
I mean, I think I have one, I haven't, like, the one that's required for me to have, that is, but I haven't done it.
You're required to have it.
Yeah, like, it just automatically comes out.
You can't keep it.
If I get done in town, I can take all that money out and get it in a lump sum. I said, okay. I don't really have to, which is fine.
Just you can't have it.
Really,
I know, right?
Oh, it's happening.
You know, you're not part of or that fund is not part of the controversial one that's underfunded at the state, the pension fund for state employees and teachers.
I don't know, I haven't heard anything.
I haven't either.
So I'm not sure.
As a whole, that must be a pretty big group of people, the state municipal.
Yeah.
I have them opposed bill, and it doesn't say anything about retaining.
Yeah, but there's a couple 5/8 by
Okay, so I'll take that.
3 and
Yeah.
5/8. It doesn't seem to say what it is, so.
Suspicious.
Sounds like.
Bring
we gotta-
something back,
Sounds like we gotta suck it up.
the very part that they just fixed is. They're like, we didn't do that.
It's somebody else's fault.
Hear about the voice situation in Illinois.
Read it in the paper.
What,
It's gone. Kimber Voight.
what they want?
What with wire? I guess it's a DC fiber.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
What's going on with fire training?
Yep.
It was in the paper?
It's in Vermont digger.
Now I knew you.
Oh, it was. That was terrible.
Or something like that.
Eustace Cable hired subcontractors to put the cable up on Stratford Road. And the
Where was it?
subcontractor,
White Hill? Was it Stratford? Where were the acres? What they actually?
as I understood it, it was all over Stratford Road area and all the different roads that go off Stratford
And
Road.
they hang all those.
They on the acre on top of the hill, tunnels and
Right, yeah.
stuff like that. Anyway, the subcontractor, apparently, when they got done, they had this little tiny, small, like, bigger than that, stainless steel wire that wraps around these wires, and they consolidate like 4 or 5 wires together. And they apparently, when they had extra wire, or they had a piece of wire that they cut off or something, just threw it on the ground. And when the chopper came along to chop the feed up, to feed the cows, it just went right through the chopper. And then eventually some of it got into the cows.
So did they lose some cows from it?
They lost 3 so far, and they're thinking that there's a number of others that are showing symptoms.
Because they found it, didn't they? They quit feeding that.
They did, but there were some cows that
Okay,
ate it
too late,
before they
right?
Oh,
fell.
sure, yeah,
And they had to throw away 500 pounds of feed
yeah.
at like $50 a
And
ton.
it's stainless steel, so it doesn't, the magnets
Yeah.
don't pick it up, either in the cow or the chopper, I guess, is a magnetic thing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Are they like suing Eustace Cable, I hope,
Yep.
or?
Eustace and the others,
Which is out of his house. You say.
the other company is. Eustace is still. And basically what they're doing now, Eustace is trying to get the insurance company to pay instead of them paying.
But I don't know what I would do. I mean, just think how many cows probably have some in their stomach.
Right.
They went through all the hay.
Yeah.
Like last one, right?
And then plus it's stressful, because you're not getting paid enough for milk anyway, and then you come up with another $50,000 or $60,000, you gotta come up with feeding cows through the winter.
And you just don't know any day when those guys could happen.
Yeah.
see Gary's picture in the paper,
No, I don't. do it
You don't
here.
think of
No.
Which paper?
front page.
Yeah,
My news,
what were you guys doing?
Yeah.
it's during the parade.
It wasn't like a mug shot.
No.
Oh.
They don't put that on the page. Not for
Driving
video.
a tractor and carrying it, so-
I didn't see you in the parade. Were you in the parade?
No.
Oh, because you said you were gonna have your race car.
No, I decided not to.
You didn't, you wrecked it.
No, it looks wrecked.
Okay.
But I decided I would
And I
be
stopped,
better served
I
to
said,
hand
"That's
out
on
flags.
your
Yes.
Gary
So I just started
stops,
here.
you need,
Didn't quite get to your house.
I saw you at
Gary,
Karen's house,
give me a
Yeah.
flag.
so,
That's as far as I got.
oh, okay.
You both got in?
Yeah.
When was this?
Weeks ago, yeah. That's true.
That's what he's looking for.
TIER.
Say it, spell it.
Hmm?
You say it tired, don't you? You get a charge out of Thomas's spelling. I tried to run a poor speller. If I can pick something like that out. I feel it's a victory.
Did you all get the email from Betsy?
Yes.
Oh,
Wow. Might be here tonight.
no, you got that broken.
For her, she's out
Bible?
resigning. No,
Oh,
Betsy,
great.
Race.
Oh, it's just, she's done.
yeah, she gave her notice until
August 30th.
August. Here you go.
The Tom's are good.
I'm gonna, if it's okay with you guys, call Dave Egan again. Because it seems like.
Well, I was gonna ask Betsy about that and haven't seen her, because I thought she said that he was gonna take over.
He was obliged to, but he needed to take care of his retirement. He was fighting with the government or something.
Right.
And he said he needs 6 to 8 months. And it seems like Betsy told us this back in January.
Yeah, I
So
was
anyway,
thinking that was long in summertime, he was gonna take
right,
over.
so if you don't mind, I'll call Dave and see if he's
Help yourself.
coming along. Because I sure don't want to be charged. That's what Betsy made sure she put that in
You
the
put
email.
that right in there, I saw that.
We could just move the position, it's not that vacancy, it's not.
Yeah.
Our chair, carry on.
Gave me a finger yesterday.
He likes you.
I said, how are you feeling? She said, great. I said, that was practical. That's when I got the finger.
Did Dave go without her?
Hmm?
Did Dave go without her?
Yes,
Tractor pull?
yeah,
Really?
like he just pulled one round, beats it right home.
Huh.
He's gotta make salmon for.
That's it. Yeah, good cook. She is a good cook. There, she's starting, they don't tomorrow, she's got, community hall.
I saw a sign, that
She's running it.
one put in.
Hmm?
One put in.
Yeah.
She
I
cobbled her
says
way
to
in.
Dave, I said, going down Pinto? He said, well, yeah, we're gonna drop Betsy off. He says, she can't catch me anymore. He says, so I go home.
She hit you. from now on.
When she gets skilling, catches, may not be pretty.
I'll have to remind
So
Andy.
what's that, once a week, once a
They just started, I think you're gonna try that. So we can say,
we should, Dave can't do it, we should also try to think of some other people.
Yeah.
Do you want to be health officer?
What?
Do you want to be health
yes, she
officer?
said yes.
You should ask me first.
It's a fun job and pays.
Oh, I bet.
400 a year.
Think where you're going.
And you usually get an earful from last what she said she got. All the number of things.
And you get to travel all over town.
Yeah.
Wait, what does that position actually do?
Well. Are you allowed?
Seems like you're interested. Seems like you're interested, sign on the bottom.
Take that motion right now. Of course, it's not.
Right.
That was gonna be one of my phone questions, was when's the last time you gave somebody the bird? You're joking when you're.
How
We know-
often
We know when Betsy.
do you change your messages on your phone? A couple times a week?
That's a lot, a lot of questions after like.
I had a call one time and it was if I liked asparagus or not.
Asparagus.
Yeah.
Mine was something about redheads, and I was like, oh, and the redheads in my family.
Oh.
And I was like, I don't know. This is hard. Can I just ask my question?
Yeah.
No, I went through it. I powered through it. Do you keep record of people's answers? Like, are you writing?
Sometimes I'll write it down.
As you're not writing a book or anything. No.
And there used to be more things I just learned, like I didn't know that, and so I put it on the machine sort of like, and then Emily was saying like, people are like, they were afraid to call you, Jeopardy or something. So now they're more like memories or like feel right into your family like this, you know. There's no real wrong answer to that.
Yeah. I was just
I'm not-
trying to be
I'm not gonna,
accurate. I was
check
like, I don't know, maybe my
John's pulling up your genealogy.
That's
I know. Like my partner is red in his beard, we have a red dog. I don't know.
Please stop, please stop.
Somebody dyed their hair red. You were dyed it.
Have I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did?
A lot, yeah. I used to be blonde.
Really?
Like balayage, so not like still brown roots, but like blonde or ends. And then I gave it up.
Get
I said,
lazy.
this is too much work. And now the grays are coming in. So.
Oh, I'm excited for that because I want to use purple shampoo.
Oh, mine,
Yeah,
yeah.
my hair's gray.
So what, they don't pick up purple?
The
No,
purple shampoo is supposed to like take the brassiness
Yeah,
out
it'll
of
be
your
like
hair.
silver and icy.
Yeah, but you can't use it every day or it'll turn your hair purple. It's just like a once.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I use.
The purple shampoo.
Where do you buy that?
I overdid it.
Yeah.
Right all over. I have my.
What about white?
Yeah. I don't know, pull out color in my hair.
Yeah.
Well, if you want purple hair, you can always just use it.
Yeah, like
every day.
You dye your hair?
on there.
That's not work. Like, you would bleach it, I guess.
I could, yeah, I could bleach it. I've always wanted like blue or purple hair, but I don't bleach it.
There's this thing now I've seen, it's called overtones, and it's like it's almost like a shampoo, it's like a thick paste, and you can put it on dark hair, but it'll tint it, like it'll tint it blue or it'll tint it whatever, but it's still your natural brunette or black, and then it just
What's
kind
it
of gives
called?
it a hue. It's called overtone, and then it's like not permanent, so it lasts only a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
you could do that, because
Yeah.
then it wouldn't be much your hair, and it would be like a hue of blue.
I like the
Yeah.
shoulder.
Yeah.
Maybe we should all dye our hair. Are you in?
I'll put that on our next town meeting. Like, we'll just get together for town meeting, dye our hair. Very happy.
That's the LCC.
Yeah.
Zero policy.
I'll see that actually.
Yeah, I thought about it a few
Well,
times.
shave our heads, right, for something.
I kind of want to do that too. Just get
Municipal
rid of it.
Tunbridge will shave their heads.
Yeah.
for Bumblebee garden.
Yeah.
How much do you shave it? You're halfway there already.
Maybe
anyway.
5, maybe.
People buy.
For Mohawks.
How much weight? That's what
You did?
Yeah. A few years ago.
What was the occasion?
He bet somebody or something.
What about you, John? Have you dyed your hair?
Never.
No, never wants to.
What she wanted to do?
Oh, she just wants to see what I'd look like if I had my old brown hair. A lot younger.
One year for Halloween, Lori dressed me up and she put some like shoe polish black hair dye and sprayed my hair all black and then parted it, combed it over. And everybody said it was creepy.
Halloween.
Did you have black hair?
I had, well, you can see remnants of it here. It's dark.
I'm trying to remember you, yeah.
I was 20 years old. Remnants. Not as dark as yours.
Yeah, mine's like a shade up from black. Is yours? Yeah,
Your
yours
hair
is
is
black.
really black.
It's dark brown.
Yeah.
I don't think it's actually black.
I would like to shave it. This is all I do with it, really. Yeah. No, so I chopped it all off after my friend Keenan died in 2019. You know, you go through some weird stuff, and so I chopped it right off to here. And then
Like a bomb.
yeah. I was gonna do it in the shower one day, and my friend was like, "I will do it for you if you do not cut it off." So yeah, then I got it cut off like professionally, and it looks good, and it wasn't jagged and whatever. But yes, I've had it super short, but haven't shaved
Not
it
a
yet.
shave.
Haven't gotten there. Maybe next meeting I'll come in. You'll never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just
But
say,
Davis will be back soon.
oh my gosh, Davis will probably be very upset.
No, but he'll cut his own, like,
Oh, yeah.
like kids are always like, yeah, exactly.
No, he doesn't love when we cut his hair, so he might not do it yet, but soon.
Is he drawing?
Yeah, I try to like put Moana on in front of him and let him like watch a movie.
Yeah.
But I've been like using buzzers like on the side
Yeah.
clippers, so he doesn't like the noise. And he,
Okay.
so yeah, it's wild.
I would try when my mother
Wow.
cut my fingernails.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Cause you're stuttering.
Yeah.
Trimming like,
I don't know, I
claws,
feel
like
like
once
I
you
haven't
can do
finished
one, and
it.
then they're like, I'm sorry.
I've been eating it all.
Lori's got Arquette, so she did treats afterwards, and so she gets out the clippers and they run toward her.
Wow, that's cool. Wow.
They're very oriented, I guess.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Awesome. So I'm gonna go through this other business quickly for you, so that we can go.
Flash right through.
So first thing, Becky gave you a report.
Yep.
Nothing that has to be done today, it's just a report for you, so if you wanna take it home and read it. Secondly, Betsy resigned, which we just talked about. She did give me a, like, document she kind of wants to instate. So I was kind of gonna go over it, and make a couple edits and then bring it to you next week,
Oh, okay.
if that's fine with you, Mike. Unless you wanna talk about it right now.
If she's still true to her word, she said she would help train the new person.
Perfect. What else? I
Oh, man.
I-
Curious.
talked
Or paint
to,
fortress.
I talked to Rita about the grant stuff we had asked about. She will still be, working on all the V-Trans Better Roads grant work. And the grants and aid that V-Trans does, they're not completely sure yet what her role is. She's still available to help until they have more guidelines and stuff in, but she's definitely still gonna be working with us every year on the Better Roads program. So she's still there.
Did she know more about the switch with the agency? of
She
Health Professionals?
didn't, she just said that they're fully transitioning to V-Trans and that they're figuring out what their roles would be moving forward, so she didn't really know.
We need to grow government.
Yeah.
I wanted to let you know, because I know that you guys had made me signer for grants. So this is just an executed grant signature for the Stratford Road paving job that we've already approved everything else on. But I wanted to bring it in case you wanted to look at it. But it's nothing new. What else do I have? We had also discussed the camera. I'm not sure where we are thinking about moving forward on that. I talked to RVs who we have all of our computers with. They said they're not really able to get these cameras right now through their distributor. I found this one on Walmart and I found like a screen and wireless keyboard, and total it was gonna be $1,308. So that's just an idea. If you did want to, maybe we could see if some of the ARPA grant money could cover this. That would be something you'd be interested in.
So how does that work with like a screen then?
So it's actually like a computer, and I was thinking like if we got a stand, like we could put it right here, and you would have this on top of it.
Yeah.
And it comes with a remote and everything, and it would just always be plugged into the specific channel it would have to be on, and it would have a wireless mouse and all of that. So it would almost act like a giant computer screen, and you could, you know, if you got a smart TV, you could access like the internet and pull up like a tab if you wanted to show stuff. And but then that way it would just have a better full range camera, so everybody could see you. And then this would be bigger, so if you know there was 20 tiles on there, it wouldn't be
Right.
Yep.
So it comes with a flat screen.
no, the flat screen would be a different, which I had also pulled out in here. It was a 55-inch smart TV. And I broke all that out. I
We could
reached,
use that.
yeah,
That's what the total of.
yeah, that was
for
the
this and the
total
TV.
for that, the TV and the wireless mouse.
Nice.
That would be nice.
Yeah. As far as the ADA position goes, Aline had mentioned to look on their website, and I had pulled up their statute saying that if we have less than 50 people, we don't have to have an actual designated person.
Oh.
So then I
For a
also,
town?
yeah,
In the town, employees. Town employees.
50 town employees.
yeah, if we had less than 50 town employees, we don't.
We won't reach that one.
Right, we don't need a coordinator, like a specific role. Just like, I don't even know. And then lastly, I had emailed you all the 2 open positions. I don't know if you had a chance to look over them. I'm just gonna post them. 'Cause I haven't-
Sure.
Okay. I had looked more into the animal control officer stuff, and there's a big long,
What are they saying?
well, you can read it. I won't read it to you. And I'm gonna add Betsy's health officer position on
Yes.
there as well. That's all I have.
You want
Yeah.
No need to put it up.
that.
3 jobs right there. You can do them all.
You know, dogs, animal control.
Mm.
fish training.
Oh, actually, you know what? We forgot minutes.
Oh, yeah, we haven't forgotten them yet.
Well, we almost forgot. And this is what that letter from solar that they needed you to sign.
So we already voted on that. then.
Yeah. And then this was just their notice from the solar people that had come stating that they were going to advance notice of plans for the 500 kilowatt one. So this was just
That
a
was the
notice
little
they
one.
had, yeah. And it has the map of the plan and stuff up there. If you want to look.
Yeah, we had that last month. I think. not that nice. That's the small one.
Yeah, I think that was all that was approved, so this was their letter stating. that
Yeah,
they had-
because they said they didn't think they were gonna get.
Is there a-
Do you know when they were gonna hear about the visitor?
They
No.
mentioned July,
But, yeah,
July would be-
Also, following
Right.
up from,
But it was also like a lottery almost, it sounded like.
Yeah.
right, there was only so many they get 10 or 12 a year or whatever.
They were-
following up from like the meeting before that meeting, I have reached out to the different people through the state. You know, that would be the contact that we were told for the last meeting. What are you saying in a minute? What do you want? About the junkyard and all of
Oh,
that. I've emailed and called, yeah, I have not heard back. So they do not, we're not high on
You're not the
their
first
list.
person who said that.
Well, Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Conservation. No word.
But you won't hear from him. probably, but-
Well, I emailed him first, so
Oh, really?
unless he trickles it down, yeah. Yeah, and then the minutes,
So which of these are actually required?
those three positions are.
A recycling coordinator? or
Oh,
something?
well, sorry, no, the recycling coordinator is not required, but I know Kathy has had interest in it, and
Right.
on our website, it's an open position.
Okay,
I figured I would send it to her, say, this is what the select board came up with as a blurb.
but you
If
can
you're,
make it your own.
right, if you're interested in it, great, if we get no interest, you
So
know,
maybe we should have Kathy in next time.
Yeah, so she's interested.
okay, I will send that to her and then ask her.
And speaking of recycling, have you talked to Mike at the dump recently?
Yeah, we gotta bring that to my other business.
Oh, okay. You can bring it up.
I did have a call from somebody at, I can't remember what her company is called. It's one of the big companies in Tunbridge. They make wire form.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that she had asked if she could take cardboard to the dump and I said, yeah. So then, what I didn't know was it was a year's worth of cardboard from her company and Mike turned them away.
Right.
So then she called and was frustrated and said, you know, we pay taxes, this is the only thing we really get is the transfer station, is this going to be common? And I said, is it common, you know, are you gonna do a year's
Well,
worth
I
at
trade
a
down once
time?
a week.
Right, and she said, no, it was just because they hadn't for COVID. And I said, okay, I think this one time you should go to South Burlington, and then obviously you're welcome to come.
Yeah.
Or just give us a heads up.
Right.
Because if it's a whole dumpster every time they come.
Right.
then-
Well, that was Mike's gripe to me was that he has it planned so that Casella will come and take that away, recycling or the trash away. And there's so many people coming from out of town now that they fill the recycling up before it's time, and then at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he has to shut it off. And people, they have to take their recycling home.
2 times in a row, right? It's the July 4th is a problem. But it's, yeah, I guess we can talk about that. I mean, it's frustrating for him because it's not,
Yes, turn people
we don't
away.
have a, let's just move to the next dumpster thing.
Right.
Right, and so, you know, if he's thinking like, okay, say on a Saturday, the dumpster's half full, are we gonna make it
Right.
on Wednesday, or do we send a half full dumpster?
Right, and that's what,
Casella got mad at him for doing that, I guess.
right, that's what Mr. Mitch said was a problem. We need to have them full every time.
Right.
It's more efficient that way.
But that means, right, like a lot of times now,
Right.
especially when you have somebody show up with a lot
Yeah.
unexpectedly, then, right, you get a half a day.
And he said there are more and more people coming from out of town because they're charging in other towns and they're not charging in Tunbridge.
Then Simon Bradford and Seth Johnson said they came, you know, a lot at one time because of COVID, or they just hadn't got there like the rest of us. And that was sort of, I was frustrated by that, but they were frustrated by me for by else.
Right.
They had so much. So there's, I don't know what the solution is there.
And I think with the out of towners, we ought to just,
Get a sticker.
or
Can you keep out of towners away?
know why you couldn't.
I don't know.
just thought about putting a sign on the sandwich board saying out of towners are not welcome.
I don't know, that might fall in.
I wouldn't sign it.
Yeah, what's that gear?
Mariah says out of towners.
Yeah, right. We can blame it for Mariah Lawrence.
Yeah, she's not here.
Right, exactly.
Just say, sign Mariah.
Yeah.
One of the Mariah.
Yeah.
And then, right, if you're, not a resident, but a law student, or you're renting, or you're a summer person, or
Right.
you're not a resident, where do you start drawing the line
Right.
to?
But if you put up a sign that would keep the honest people out anyway. It might help.
Keep them out of Tunbridge. Keep the honest people out of Tunbridge.
Yeah, keep those people out.
And when you think of going to a whole other town with the writer's cycle.
Right. It seems like
Well, a lot of people go to the World and Bethel one. Because it's open more often, I can handle bigger stuff, it takes a little more.
I didn't even know that I could do that.
Yeah.
I don't do it, that does unless it takes the stuff for like the business and
Right.
all of that, so.
I just throw mine down on the back.
you can do that.
Downhill these stuff.
It's all downhill these days.
Water for sale.
And then I don't think we've ever had a policy on commercial stuff, because
Right, right.
in wire form, I'm sympathetic, but
Yeah.
they're in coverage, but we're not set up really
But
for
on
commercial.
the other hand, that's a commercial thing.
Right.
You know, maybe they ought to have some, maybe they ought to have their own dumpster protect.
Right.
Yeah, because imagine, just the scale, if you had some giant company move to town, they're like, we get to use your dump as our personal dump.
Call it next policy.
And whether stickers, big town resident stickers, or
But I
something.
thought you said we couldn't have stickers.
Well, I don't know. That's what I was
When
asking.
Becky was gonna sell stickers.
Those were, that was gonna be paying though, so you
Oh.
could take a certain amount, I think, just to have like,
Yeah, so like
almost like,
South Royalton High School, like to park in their parking lot, like the student parking lot,
Right.
you have to have like an SR sticker on the car.
Yeah.
So it could be something similar,
Yeah.
like a Tunbridge.
The Tunbridge sticker used to do that.
that's right.
I mean, we got send over Bill Cameron. Got 23 trucks over there.
Send him one, he's gonna pick a truck.
On another subject, did anyone ever get back to Laura Ginsburg without
Oh, yeah.
seeing a lawyer? I messaged her and told her that my feeling was that she ought to,
Did you talk to T?
But-
I did.
Right, and he said it was
He said he's out
Right.
representing us because of
in this
conflict
issue,
of interest.
so,
okay, but she said that she was having issues with people being rude and sending a rude
Right,
email.
I forgot about that, I read it.
I didn't really understand what she wanted the lawyer for, whether it was for it sounded to me like she didn't know whether she was supposed to share
Share the
their
product of,
policy that they're trying to write, maybe you would know.
Right.
They're trying to form a policy, which won't be a policy until we approve it. But apparently there's some people in town that want to see the policy
in draft form.
in draft form,
As they're
and
working
she
on it.
didn't know whether she had to share it with them or not.
From
I would
public-
think-
Public meeting.
I would think you'd have to, it's all public knowledge, right?
But I don't know, say a draft goes through 18 revisions,
Right.
do you have to potentially make it available at every time there's a paragraph change?
I would think so, because you're doing it,
Someone asked for it, especially, because that's like an information request, even if it's just by email. So maybe you don't have to post every draft, but if someone asks for it, then you do. It's my general
Katie might be okay with that,
Well, that's what I thought,
because it's kind of general.
because it's not specific
Right.
to
Right.
something, it's kind of. But she said she talked to the LCT and somebody else, and I said, my God, you know, VLCT should have told her.
They were saying the opposite, weren't they? According to her. That you didn't necessarily have to make drafts public. Or maybe I read that wrong.
They might have said you don't have to make every draft public, but I think if someone asks
There's like
for it, you
somebody
have to
asks
send
for
it. I think, I mean, she would want to ask for, that specific question, but.
And I was thinking, oh, so there's the planning commission, they're
Bumped off to the trails.
right, there's a subcommittee to the trails committee. The trails committee itself is split into 3 groups.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's a group that's looking at communication, a group that's looking at like environmental, ecological stuff. And so even at that level, should there be warnings every time the 3 people get together or minutes? I mean, it's really complicated when you have like subcommittees of subcommittees. Like if real sticklers could say if we all saw each other at the July 5th parade, we're supposed to. We're not supposed to actually talk about town business.
That's really kind of a big deal, because we're at the top of the pyramid in Tunbridge. But if you're on a
Subcommittee.
trails
Subcommittee, yeah.
subcommittee of a subcommittee, I mean, that wouldn't be. If you had 3 people on a committee and you got together, you didn't write minutes, I mean, is that a killing matter?
I think killing matter. I think in the public meetings document, I think if it's a town recognized committee, then it has to be open meeting laws, but I can look up the paragraph.
Well, yes, I understand that, but if,
So you don't have to kill anyone else.
if the 3 people on this committee went up on Falls Hill Road and looked at that trail together, I mean, is that a public meeting?
I think it would be, if you're discussing the trail, and you could warn it and say you're walking up there, and that's all you have to do, then you can just go, and people can join you if they want or not, right? But it's like when they were doing the Ashley Community Forest in Stratford and Sharon, and they wanted to meet at the Ashley Community Forest, and they had to warn that if enough people met to make it a meeting. A meeting. So I think it would be.
No, I think you're probably right as far as the law goes, and it's constantly like people, don't do this just out of, like, even, I wonder if Rodney said tonight, let's go look at Fry Road and see if you approve, does that have to be warned on an agenda or can we take our select board to a remote place? Or can it be on Zoom?
If all 3 of you went with Rodney, then yeah, you'd have to warn it.
But ahead of time, you can't do it through.
No, but one of you could go without warning it, you know what I mean?
It gets really complicated. It's just small
Yeah, but
towns.
who would you choose?
One will be crackers.
In case you get lost. Minutes.
That's all I have, is this.
Let's see if Tavian would give her some advice, maybe just on the
I don't
statutory.
think so. What did you probably didn't get that, did you? Well, I sent her back a message and said, in my opinion, you ought to go see David. Yeah, but that was my opinion.
We can task
I
you
would,
with.
I would approve that. I mean,
Yeah.
It's gonna cost money. It's probably worth it. Especially if it's yours.
And it would be a 5-minute phone call, so it won't cost much money for anyone. You want to contact Laura?
I will.
And they will be at our next meeting.
Right. And they sent them, report too.
Do you have a phone number? Anybody know?
She does have one, but I don't know what it is. It didn't come with her email.
I don't remember. I'll check.
So. Other business was, did you see Janet Zood's email about,
Sponsors?
no.
No, but she did have an email.
Two road things, one on
Oh,
Euclid side, it's called
Romantic.
Romantic, it just says Crossroads. Right?
crossword
Does it really?
RD. It's CROSS and then RD.
Oh, really?
And I've seen it a million times, but I never paid attention.
Right, and at the top of Dickerman.
Yeah,
Whichever
but
one
that
Randolph
might be
was.
in Randolph.
Right.
I bet that's
Hill
a
or
Randolph.
Chelsea, right. It says private, it says Dickerman Hill.
I've seen that too.
Yeah.
But that's Randolph, isn't
It's on Randolph soil.
it? Right.
I just keep the bad people out.
Well, where does Brookfield come
It's over the hill a little bit.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
is that-
a little bit.
Just a
in?
little
And
bit.
where does Chelsea end? And
Yeah,
Randolph,
about
East Randolph begin.
I
Right,
don't think it's going to turn out there. So the road's smooth
So it's
enough.
Randolph.
With
Yeah, it's East
road
Randolph.
smooth stuff.
I thought about taking some sort of, I don't know, maybe some paint or something and just put up.
Janet said it used to have tape over it. And
Yeah.
it's fallen off.
Oh, on the private, but I was thinking about Crossroads.
Oh.
Just put the
They-
in the Crossroads.
Yeah, I
Nobody's-
saw that, that's on my list. is to get.
Nobody stole the sign yet. They
They
steal all the
probably
signs
should,
over
yeah.
West Country.
It's
Maybe
unique.
we all have,
And
we all have the
it's-
wrong names, no one will steal them.
maybe they're
Monarch
not-
with a K, no one can steal it.
Nobody steal it.
So you're gonna take care of that?
Yes.
Okay.
And we just, do you want one for Dickerman as well? That doesn't say private, or are we
When
just?
you have Rodney, just call Randolph people and say,
Or Ronnie pick some tape up and put over the private car?
do another town's road sign, that would look bad.
We'll send Jim up.
It's good, man.
Thomas, Alan.
Can we get on top of the shoulders? There. And then we're on it.
Right.
And then right.
I have the quarry, because we've been thinking about that.
Oh,
We
yes.
haven't responded to that woman in months and months now. Are we just gonna drop it? Or do we want to pursue?
So where did we end our conversation with her? We finally got in touch with her, right?
I talked to her a year ago. And
Yeah.
she
A
said,
year ago.
yeah, it was in the summertime. And then she was gonna talk to her brother, and then I didn't hear anything from her, and then all of a sudden, then
Yeah,
when it was,
4 or 5 months ago.
oh yeah,
February or
I
something.
got an email from her saying, we're interested in selling, are you interested in buying?
My personal opinion is that we pursue it
Yeah, me too.
and see what she wants for it, or whether she
Okay.
wants us to make an offer,
Okay,
because didn't we say they paid like nothing for taxes on that?
$300 a year.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
it's
she
not a
told
huge
me.
cost to the town.
So,
On the tax rolls.
right, so if we bought it, it wouldn't
Yeah.
take a whole bunch of money away from taxes.
Right, even if it doesn't
And-
go anywhere,
What was
Even
it
if it
assessed
doesn't.
at? We know.
$8,000 or something
Yeah.
like that.
And even if it didn't go anywhere right now, it might in 30 years.
Right, exactly. Because access is an issue now.
Right.
I wonder if we could use some highway money to buy that, just thinking where the
From
money
the-
might come from, because it's potentially.
Yeah.
If that-
Right, like buying a gravel pit.
I mean, I just,
If we have surplus, we can do it.
we just don't have anything budgeted to buy.
Right.
land.
No, but we have surplus.
But by the time we get around to it, it might be another budget period.
So anyway, I'll call Scott.
I mean, this might be a good year to do it for the surplus.
Yeah.
And Gary will be kicked out of office. Freestyling. When's the last time the town bought something?
We got
We did.
what adds on to town forest from. Can't remember her name now, but up on the Goo Road. The town forest
Oh,
is
right,
like
yep.
70 acres with about 20 acres for Peter Allen Place.
Yeah.
His daughter,
Okay.
lived down in Claremont. So we bought that land for her to get the landing space, or the space to access the road.
Yeah.
But that was 20 years ago.
Select for 20 years. You've been on ever since.
He comes and goes.
Depends on how the political mood is.
When you take a hiatus,
Yeah.
then you wait till it cools down. and you
Yeah.
come back. Start all that. Yeah.
I'm looking at my pension, my 401k.
Yeah, yeah. I like it.
All right, minutes.
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 Did you guys read your town meeting minutes?
I did not.
John.
I know. You're right.
Well, here you go.
But Gary has some issues, so.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we have confusion. Says here. Oh, we're gonna, something about, I wrote down Hardwood, I don't remember what, oh, it says Paul. It
Okay,
should say
thank you.
Paul.
I didn't know who it was, so I was like, Paul, and somebody will fill it in.
Yeah. And it's Andy Bogartis, not Amy Bogartis.
Okay,
On the, that one.
thank you.
It's quite silly.
And it was a two bill, it just said there, and it's two bill.
You got a highlighter right there.
Oh.
I'll let you,
Are you, is it?
is it what? Oh, it should be
Okay.
LED.
Yeah.
You can make edits to it.
My highlighter.
Two property tax bills, okay.
Oh, I guess it just says Orange County Sheriff's Department, but it doesn't say Orange County Sheriff's, it just says that,
Okay.
I don't know if that has to be clarified.
Sure, I can spell it out.
And these were not businesses, they were organizations.
Okay.
And that wasn't to make a motion, it was to amend the motion. I don't remember, it says, was this the correct language?
I'm not sure.
Jim Spalding makes a motion to move the second motion.
Yeah, you tell me how you want that to sound. Yeah.
This didn't sound, didn't flow well.
Jim Spalding made a motion to move the second motion.
So
I think-
what was, there was a motion and then,
Call a second one.
Yeah, it was when we were talking about the, if we're gonna do like a straw vote.
oh,
and-
to table something.
Yeah. And then there was one motion that was made, and then somebody else stood up and said something else. And then we were voting on the first one, but then we had the motion for the second one.
What was amendment made to the motion? If I remember correctly.
We can listen to it. I have
It's not
3
that
hours
big a
worth
deal.
of town meeting.
Oh, this was, when it split, right?
Yeah,
between the-
when we were talking about the funds and if we were gonna pull, like change it to more sustainable investing.
Oh,
But they were votes, right?
no, I just got thinking, maybe Jim called a question.
Right,
Is that what it?
well, I would.
Yeah.
think it
So that
was.
we have to vote on it.
Yes,
Right.
so he didn't actually make a motion, he called the question,
Okay,
which means when someone calls, and Liz explained that at the beginning, when someone calls a question, you have to stop all debate and vote.
okay. So that's what
So you
she
can just
said.
simply
Right.
say call the question.
But you have to identify
Jim
which motion
Spalding
he calls.
Yeah.
So we call the
Call the
question.
question
Call
to the
the
second
question on-
motion.
Right, that was right.
Because 100 years from now, some historian's gonna look at that and say, well, that didn't make any sense.
Do you not like so moved or do you want that out?
I just didn't think that made any sense there. Even though it probably, that's what happened. And I wanted this unknown voter, it just kept popping up. And I wondered if you ever did catch that person.
No.
Who
they
was
didn't-
that?
I don't know, they were unknown.
They
Nobody,
didn't identify
they
themselves.
didn't, and nobody asked, and I
What
tried
was
to ask around to be like, I couldn't hear Helen, and so I
Oh,
said,
okay, you started going back or something.
yeah, this unknown person. I do not know,
Where was,
that's on the last page.
Well, there's a number of.
Oh, was there?
There was a number of unknown people that made
I
motions.
think a lot of it was kind of going fast, and
Right.
I'll catch it next time.
No more people.
Next time maybe I'll get them.
Betsy Geyser,
Did I spell it wrong?
how do you spell that? We're always having it.
G-U-R.
No, G-E, I think.
Really?
G-E-I-S-E-R.
Yeah. I think you're right.
I think that you better double check that. Did you look them up? I have no idea. how to spell
Lurch,
his
it's
name.
L-E-R-C.
Lurch, as in lurch. You weren't here?
How did I have my, no, I wasn't. I was at the school vote.
Oh, right.
These are
okay,
Johnson's.
okay, that's what, I knew you must be gone, but I couldn't figure out when.
I was gonna put that in.
Mariah absent, not here.
Unexcused. absence,
Exactly.
right?
Although I was doing a school vote for our town,
That's
that's
so
excusable.
You could have had your assistant.
Which one?
So
Davis?
this is assistant clerk,
I think Helen is.
but we don't have an assistant administrator.
Just me. An assistant to
That's
the
not a job
assistant.
for you.
You are your own assistant.
Second paragraph says graders all fit. The new starter from Dave's. You might want to put from Dave's starter and alternator.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I just go off of what you, when you guys have said. Got it from Dave's, and I said, got it from,
I know what we knew what we were talking about.
okay, you can add a little note in there.
Oh, you want me to?
Yeah. Then I'll just fix them and I'll add it to the file of the Gary's signature.
You know, we have some rainy day.
It's right a couple times.
My brother said it's rained every day in Boston.
Oh,
Oh,
I
that.
think it's over there already.
Yeah, it says those big ones, only 4 projects.
I think they're good.
those are Johnson's, so they're probably.
Yes.
Go there.
I remember
I
reading
don't think
it.
I knew this. I could look it up.
Oh, I'm gonna inform you right now that I've made you the overall coordinator of the next year's Memorial
I
Day
did hear
parade.
that, yes. Gord came up to me and he goes, I hear you got a new job with the town. I said, what are you talking about? Oh, well, maybe I shouldn't tell you that. if Gary hasn't told you. I said, what am I doing that Gary signed me up for? And he said, you're gonna be the parade coordinator.
It's Memorial
Instead of Tracy?
Day. No, Tracy's gonna work under you. She's gonna be your assistant.
Why am I the lead on it?
Gary, maybe you
You're gonna be the coordinator of all of Memorial Day.
Can't wait. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Just then, because we need one person to for everything to go through.
that what Tracy does?
No, Tracy just does the parade.
It was great.
So you're saying when you guys came in at each select board meeting and would give a bit and piece here and there for each thing, you
Yeah.
say, I talked to Simon and I talked to
Yeah.
this person.
Right. In the library, and then you just a little blurb for the paper.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Is it as administrative assistant or as clerk? That's good.
Administrative assistant.
That's pro bono.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, if you do that, I appreciate it.
Sure. Anything for you all.
Just this year, it kind of all fell together, and Tracy. was-
I thought it went great.
Yeah.
I got to hang out at my house.
Next year, you'll just be at your house with a
Why
lot
don't you driving your race car?
Right.
I
He
decided not
poured,
to.
he has crashed it.
How's racing going?
It has its ups and downs.
Are those from your race cars? Did you?
The little
bring it
green
down
one
here?
is, the other one, the big one is from Mike,
No.
the large purple one.
You might get to see the governor and the
Right
chair.
over here was the podium, is John's.
When is that?
And
It
Brenda's-
was Thursday night.
Brenda's over there.
Every Thursday?
It's summer,
I grew up.
but you know who's got the bigger trophy.
Have the biggest one.
What's that? For what?
We'll look at
Oh, tractor.
He bought it.
Yeah.
tractor pull.
He's the West Tunbridge king.
The health officer oftentimes.
Right.
Gives them a run for his money.
Yeah. As long as you turn the gas on.
That, what was his name? Michael Krauthammer, I think is.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Sad day.
Yeah,
The tractor pull?
the names are so hard. He said,
I think I might have
No,
looked that
hand
up.
up.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I looked up a lot of these things. but I'll double
Yeah,
check.
double check that.
Site.
Okay, so then I guess for next meeting, I will just make these changes and then we.
Was there
Were
another-
these the,
Those are yours,
That's mine.
Gary approved them and signed them, so if you all want to sign those, then those can be.
and the new ones, those are last.
These are last week's. Which I have to edit those.
That's good that you're putting on Zoom. Jim, who was it? Jim Ludwig?
Was that, who was the other person that was on there?
Jim Ludwig.
I don't remember who it was. No.
It was whoever was telling me who I should contact at the deeds.
Last meeting?
Coordinators
No,
that.
that was Dave Kimball.
Dave Kimball was? I thought it was a guy named Jim. I think it said Jim.
Jim was on too, I think, but I don't.
Dave, you know what it is, or what?
Last meeting, Dave mentioned something about junkyards and something else.
So but you're saying Jim Ludwig was there as well?
I don't know.
I don't know. You just put Jim there.
I might be running them together.
Yes, he wasn't.
Who did you say was Dave?
Dave Kimball.
Because he came in for that, right? That we appointed
Mhm.
Crossbone.
Oh, that was the week before.
That was from the
Or
time
that was the
before.
time
though.
before.
Yeah.
Because I was there.
Maybe,
Wasn't Jim there because did you officially appoint him to be the Central Vermont Solid Waste?
right.
blah,
Or
blah?
was that the time?
That was
before,
the
too?
Was that the time for too?
This was just Jim.
Yeah. Unknown.
The unknown Jim.
From town meeting.
Yeah.
Do we need that tractor?
No, I put that
Oh,
there for you.
okay.
I got a tractor.
I'm
You
I'm
want
not gonna
another
have salmon
tractor?
for supper.
Yeah.
I need- Probably had ribs in them.
That's
Ribs.
When Scoob got married down here last week, they had, what's their names?
the English barbecue.
Yeah.
I saw their setup.
They did a big feed, and I guess a whole bunch of people didn't show up. So Laura came home with a big rack of ribs, and got this one.
Really?
I've been chewing on
Who
Wow.
got married?
Scoob over there, Alan White.
Who?
Scoob,
The Hawks brother.
Fox cousin.
You go.
See, wasn't invited. Paying.
You weren't, but Lori was.
No, Lori went down afterwards.
Oh.
Lori knows the people, I can't think of their names now.
The English brother. You
Yeah,
go.
but you- yeah,
Because they were here all last time.
or is friendly with them?
That was so nice last summer, having them down there,
Yeah.
like walking down and getting dinner.
You
once a
could
week.
smell it too.
Oh, no. I'd look over the bank and say, there's not a line, let's go.
Let's get on our e-bike.
Exactly.
Be down there.
I don't think we had them last year, no, we didn't have them till the fall, so we had to walk.
Couldn't go for
All the
fence
way.
somewhere.
No, our gate is closed.
Yeah.
I don't know why. We should open.
Yep.
Rodney's is open, so I go, it's.
Have a turnstile.
Yeah. Exactly.
We done fooling around.
Pretty much.
You gotta sign this.
It's, yes, that one,
Your name's-
or that's the one I'm
No,
gonna
this
edit,
one.
so not
You
that
gotta
one.
sign that one.
Yeah, that one I'm gonna change.
This one's, okay.
So I'll take that one back. Thank you. That one's the one you wrote, so. Yeah. No,
You have two.
yes. I'll add it to my approved and signed select board minutes. And then once all these ones get approved, well, they're all approved, once these ones get all signed by you all, then I will report them all in the book that we have. Like, I'll give you a half line.
But Jeff keeps updating them. Right?
Yeah, I sent him like all of these, I'll send it to him on Thursday, I'll have them all.
Is it legal for me to take minutes home with me?
Sure. I have it all.
Draft minutes.
Well, these ones are all approved, they just need a signature.
Or just sit down and sign them at home
Sure,
for the time?
and then we can pass them all around.
And when I get a big cramp in my hand, like.
We gotta pass these back in.
You can keep those if you want, but if you pass them in, I'll put them back out next meeting. So, and that's, I like that highlighter station.
I got mine out.
I didn't even get you.
This one's almost out, so I definitely need that highlighter. That one's
Nothing to highlight.
I got one around it.
the liquid one.
No, no, it still works.
Action items.
I'm calling Dave Egan.
Oh, Lord.
You wanna know all mine?
No,
Oh, okay. It's this whole folder and all of it. But I'll just, I'll get you one.
hours for dump tickets. Tuesday, Thursday, you're here,
I'm here Tuesday, Thursday, but Becky and the listers have them
like
as well.
tomorrow.
Yeah, so basically,
Somebody's almost always here.
yeah, exactly. You can drop them in the Dropbox, you can buy them online, you can mail them in, you can go to the library when they're open. They're everywhere. Do we have to officially adjourn this?
Somebody makes a motion.
I make a motion to return.
Yep.
9:11. All right, shut it off.
I'm